then so you can block it out. Cannot be accused of not informing them.
All right, we are on, and this is the Litchfield Budget Committee meeting. It is August 25th, and I'll call the meeting to order, and if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are missing Bob Keating tonight, and for the town, Kevin is running late, so he will be here shortly. Our next agenda item is public input. No? Okay. No public input. Review and additions to the agenda. I'm not aware of any changes tonight. We have two sets of minutes back in June. There were, I guess, several changes to the May minutes, so those were postponed so that those changes could be made, and so tonight we need to approve those unless there are more changes.
I just had one comment on the May 26th one, unless I'm looking at an old set. On page 4, saying that Mrs. Douglas believes that the district should not be spending $400,000 per month. I mean, clearly, based on our budget, that's unrealistic. My intention was, or I'm not sure how I worded it, but spending an unexpected $400,000 per month.
Should not be spending an unexpected $400,000 a
Yeah,
month?
because
Okay.
if you spend $20 million over 10 months, you're clearly going to spend more than $400,000 a month.
Unexpected, okay. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the amended May 26th minutes.
I second.
Just
Unless you got
a point of order. You weren't on the committee yet, so you can't make the motion for the May ones.
I had several edits.
You had comments, but you weren't, you were just an attendee.
Okay.
So if someone could.
I'll make the motion to approve. the
Thank you,
amended
Carrie.
minutes.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Make me feel
So
good.
No, really.
One opposed and two
All right, so
abstentions.
what was the
You're
count?
not liking the minutes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1 opposed and 2 abstaining.
Two opposed?
Should this remain a mystery, or?
Look, it had been changed so many times, it was 3 months ago.
Okay.
I don't even remember, I read
So how
them,
to
and I got no clue.
Okay.
So I'm just opposed on principle. Gotcha.
All right. That's fine. I was just curious.
Like,
Is there
uh-oh,
something
what,
in
yeah,
there?
what happened that we forgot about?
That was not documented.
All right, so that brings us then to June 23rd, and I was not at that meeting.
Make
but
a motion to accept the minutes of June 23rd.
Second.
It's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Aye.
Aye. So there's 3 abstentions, which means there's 4 fours. All right, correspondence. I guess technically the only correspondence I have was there is a workshop, a budget committee workshop, and I forwarded that to everybody.
Also like state funding. So didn't something come through about state funding and a graph and, no? I was looking through my email today. No, okay.
That doesn't ring a bell, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. I don't see anything.
State aid to municipalities.
That would be it.
Okay. When was that?
That wasn't imagined.
Came in on July 14th from Troy Brown,
Okay.
from the town.
And then there was the Budget and Finance Workshop, which is being
Right.
held on Tuesday, September 20th in
Not
Manchester.
completely
No.
which is a good opportunity to go, learn about budgeting, especially if you're new to it. It's a great workshop. I've been a couple times before, not in the last couple of years, but it is a good workshop.
And you
And
make
it's at the
arrangements.
Puritan,
It's
right?
at the Puritan.
Right.
And you
So
make
it's close
arrangements
by.
for the town, right? Because they would pay the fee?
The town, yes.
For those who are interested in going.
Yep.
I have plans.
I was gonna say, I think I didn't read it, but it's usually not that expensive.
No.
$50, $25.
Did you send that to us already?
I did,
it came through
August
today.
23rd, 2 days ago.
Okay.
$80.
I'm a little behind.
$80, okay.
But you get continental breakfast and lunch.
Wow.
Big spenders.
And you
here's your
said it was
bagel and an
And
July.
here's your sandwich and a bag of chips.
Exactly.
You said it was July that we got the information from Troy?
July 14th, I believe.
Oh, I didn't see it. All right, I'll take your word for it, because I don't see it.
You're going to see it in a minute.
Are you gonna send it to me?
Yeah, it came directly from Troy. So if you're looking for yours sent, it won't come through there.
All right, yeah, and what I find is, when I forward thing, it now jumps to a new date, so sometimes it can be hard
The
to
thread
sort
of
through
them,
where it went. All right, so, we did get that then, and that's all the correspondence I am aware of. Yes, that, and so the finance report, we get, every week, we get the town finance reports, we get our usual stuff, so I was
Another district one.
in the district one, so I was talking about outside of
I gotcha.
what we usually bring to our meetings.
Better than me.
So, moving into reports, starting with school business. Want to bring us up to speed with what's been going on over the summer?
Well, I'll start off, first, we have a new member on the school board. Nicole Quintana resigned, and Paula Isbicki was chosen for her place. And Paula comes to us, she's an elementary principal in Hollis, New Hampshire. So I think she's going to be a nice addition for the school board. You received the DA's report for the final for the year. The ending fund balance was $238,728. The other thing I had, you'd inquired as far as the calendar that was sent with the initial attachment from the DAs.
Yeah.
And then having a conversation with him, I know he sent another one out to you.
Yes, we did get, so if we want to take a look at that,
Yep.
fiscal year 2018 budget development calendar, so that was sent out. It looks as though,
And I actually spoke to him since that was sent out.
Okay.
Again. And the hope is on the 26th of October that the school board will finalize the budget.
mhm,
But even if it's a little bit after that, that we'll be ready to go on the 3rd.
okay.
And like I said, I anticipate no more than 4 meetings after that. I know right now we have 5 after the 3rd. So if you want to just leave it there as a potential meeting, but I don't think there's going to be a need for it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, we have 6 set aside, so if it's going to be 4, that's great. Do you have any sense, and it may be too early, do you have any sense of how it's going to
The
be
order?
broken out? Yeah,
I believe that we're just going to follow the same as last year.
okay.
'Cause I know we start with GMS, LMS. I know we'll end it with HR. But if you have the schedule from last year, I think Frank had said that most likely we'll just stick with the same schedule.
Okay.
Same rotation. But as soon as it gets a little closer, if it changes, then I'll let you know.
Right, right. So I just want to make sure so that when I want to try to put some substance to it so we
Yep.
know as we're heading in, because I already know that I'm going to miss the November 3rd meeting. So I think it helps as we plan the fall to know what, we can
Right.
plan ahead.
And November 3rd will be the superintendent just outlining goals and just more or less what his thought process is on the budget.
Okay.
Will the budget still be presented in kind of a newer format? I think you were mentioning a
Yeah,
change to the
it will.
overall
They'll show, I
presentation.
can't remember, the 2 or 3 year, they'll show expenditures from 2 or 3 years, and then it's also gonna be, what's nice too, Andrew, so you won't have to add everything up all the time. As far as for the current year,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a rolling number
Okay.
as far as expenditures. So you'll see up to date, once it's presented, that number's gonna be actual up to that date.
Great.
So it's like 75% purchased, you'll be able to see those numbers. I know in the past, I know you've done a lot of research yourself, trying to like
Do that
formulate,
on the
see how
fly
much
with
you-
questions,
right.
yeah. Yep.
So you'll
And-
actually see like 2 prior years, this current year, and what the expenditure is for that year.
Good.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And will we be able to get an Excel version as well, so that as we make our own changes, or?
I'll inquire about that.
Yeah, in years past, a raw dump of it, whatever, and if it's not available, I'll go through the binder page by page like I've done before too, so.
Well, I don't see any reason why we can't get you an Excel version. I know Dennis just alluded to it before the start of the meeting, but the freshman orientation took place at the high school today. And on Wednesday, it was welcoming back all the teachers. So all the teachers got together in the auditorium for a full day of breakout seminars and different things. And one of the things that came out of it that we talked about earlier is we're going to be starting a Twitter account for the schools. So there'll be a lot more information to be going out a little bit quicker. There'll also be, I believe, they'll have a link on the homepage as far as to get access to it. So
So who's gonna tweet?
the teachers will.
The teachers?
It was presented to us by, I don't think his first name,
Scott.
Scott Spalding.
Scott Spradlin.
And he introduced it to Londonderry School about a year or 2 ago. And said it's a fabulous means of communication, and it's out there, and it's worked out very well for him. So hopefully it will for us also.
Great.
The other thing is the building committee will be meeting on September 7th. And at that time, we'll also incorporate, we'll be choosing a vendor at that time from the 5 vendors that we had. And
So I thought the analysis took place, the assessment, so it hasn't taken place
No.
yet? Okay.
we haven't even chosen a vendor yet.
All right,
That'll be the
all right.
first meeting. There was supposed to be a meeting earlier
Mhm.
in August, but they just couldn't get the committee together.
Okay.
What was the warrant article for that? How much?
40,000.
40, bids were all over, I saw it just briefly on the
Yeah.
webpage, it's all over them.
They are all over.
4, yeah,
Yeah.
why such a variance?
Well, there's one, it's like skews them all off. If you look, the most
There's 2
expensive.
that were like 70 grand, right?
It was higher than that,
One of them?
wasn't it?
No, it was like 72,
There was
75.
a really low, a really high.
Yeah,
and
I just
then
don't understand why there's
think-
such a big,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it was because of the company, to be honest.
Then my scoop sheet has
And what they think they can accomplish, or what they think they're supposed to
Well,
accomplish.
I mean, they all have the same scope of work to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it was given to them, they have to do the outline of what the work is required. And I think someone felt that that company would come in high anyway, and it did. So we, like I said, we'll meet on September 7th, and at that same time, once we pick a vendor, then we'll start discussing the Homeland Security report that was presented to us.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of. I knew you had received
Yeah,
something.
that one had already come in.
Okay. And so, I know, if I recall, there's not all of it you can share, because some of it is
Sensitive.
specific to safety and whatnot. Can you give us an overview, kind of what they suggested or said, or?
Not this time, because the board hasn't discussed it yet.
Okay, all right. Nope, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm hoping at our next school board meeting, we will discuss it in non-public, and then at that time, I can break out as far as some of the information I can share.
Okay.
Like I said, for those of you not aware of the report, basically what Homeland Security does, they went through all 3 schools. They check exterior, interior, they look at entranceways, cameras, the glass on the doors, the glass on the windows, the windows themselves, any type of access point doors. And they just, what they did is then presented us with the report as far as, here are some of the things you could possibly do as far as for secure safety. And it all comes at a cost, and that's one of the reasons what the building committee will get together and probably scope out a plan, 5-year plan or a shorter plan, whatever. Maybe incorporate some of them and get some of them done.
Do you have any enrollments? I know heading into.
No, I actually asked the superintendent today, and like he said, the numbers would be so raw that he doesn't have anything as of right now. The only thing that I did hear is that there was about 12 new students at GMS and about the same at LMS. But again, I'm not certain as far as how many left. But it just seemed
Right.
there was a little bit of an influx of students at those two schools.
Because usually, going into the opening of school, they have information about who's enrolled
Yeah.
and whether we've seen an increase at certain grades, or first grade is still on track or not.
I know first grade's still on track, and he told me that, but as far as numbers, I asked him today, and he didn't really have any numbers.
Okay, so traditionally, they'll do the first day of school, and they'll do,
Later,
what was that?
in October.
And then they'll do the October 1st. Okay. And October 1st is what we do our projections with.
Yep.
Right. Okay, any questions or
Yeah.
comments?
How are you doing with the new district website?
Cheryl?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry, the district website.
The district website is right now in the hands of the developers and designers. I spoke with them today, and everything is going very well, very busy. We gave them, basically, I gave them, I put together kind of what we wanted it to look like, you know, bits and pieces from different websites, from clients they had, and made it the way we wanted it to look. And I was on the phone with them when we handed it over to them in July for about 2 hours. We were going back and forth with it. And it seems like it's all going to be on track to be launched on October 1st, as long as we're comfortable with it. So I would say in a couple more weeks, maybe less, they'll have a design to us, and we'll beta test it, and we'll get trained and see how we like it. Any changes that have to be made will be made, and then hopefully we can launch. We'll have a Twitter feed on it, or we'll have a superintendent blog. It will not be an interactive blog. School board will have their own page. There'll be a staff intranet, so that staff doesn't have to worry about public getting into it. There'll be a page for parents. There'll be teacher pages. It's just, it's so much better than what we have, and I think everybody's going to be really happy with it. Very easy to navigate.
Yeah, I seem to recall you guys mentioning that the vision was to go live at the start of the school year, that's why. With the
It
date,
was,
that's
but
why
we
I asked.
we couldn't guarantee that we could get everybody trained over the month of August, because the teachers weren't back yet. So we kind of pushed it off a month so we could schedule some training.
I have a question on Frank's report. Food service section.
Yep.
There's two numbers at the top. There's 112,920, and then on the fund balance beginning, I'm assuming he's just off by a line. The fund balance beginning is 112,920.
Yeah, it's not the 500. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm assuming the 500 is really like the projected revenue.
I believe it is, and I know, yep, and then the fund balance is the 109.
So the 109 just simply means we spent $3,000 more than we took in. We reduced the overall balance by 3,000 because we were, okay, I was just trying to make the numbers line up, and that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
Figuring balance 500,000.
Well, no, what I'm looking is that if we had a surplus of 109,000, food service had an awesome year,
Right.
but I didn't think that was the case.
No, you're right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. Moving on to town business. Can you tell us
Sure.
what's been going on this summer?
Yeah, just, as you guys know, as far as St. Cobain, we just got notification today on that St. Cobain ended up giving Pennachuck the authorization to go out and seal bids for the north end of town, so Pennachuck should be doing that. With the exception of that, town this summer's been pretty quiet. Nothing major going on in town as we speak right now. As you know, on the selectmen side of things, we're going to be getting into the budgets. So the biggest news right now is that we did get or Pennachuck got the authorization to get bids to get the north end of town taken care of. So exception on that.
And that is for all the work that you wanted to get done?
That is correct.
Which is to supply water basically to the north end of town.
Correct. Yep.
So are we reviewing the accounts listed here on Monday?
That's what
29th?
the town will be starting. Is that one that?
No, this is
Review and
the,
vote, right?
this is the
Review.
draft that Troy has worked out,
Okay.
and the selectmen will be starting on the 29th. So,
Over here?
so if you go then to the second page, that's when it gets presented to,
I see. So we're starting on the 29th,
yes.
or the 22nd?
Mhm.
22nd, got it.
So, and that is what I wanted, so they've broken it up into 3 meetings. They're doing all of the heavy hitters, shall we say, in one night. Road, fire, police, all in one night. And so, part of what Troy and I were talking about is how does the budget committee want to divide up when they receive it and review it and work on it? Do you want to do, we have set aside 6 nights.
My
With-
opinion is, with, changes that can be made over the course of the budget to provide us on the 22nd, right? Is when we could accept the budget when it's ready. And on the 22nd, we can get an overview of what to expect as we go through the budgets, right? And then on the 29th, we can start to dive into it, right? Because that gives us from a week to look at the first, I guess we're gonna do it in the same order, right? So,
Well, and that is the question. Troy said, whatever order we want to do it in, he can accommodate us. And
Yeah.
that's why I want to ask you, we don't traditionally do all of the big budgets in one session. We usually do several small ones, tackle one of the police or the fire or the roads, and then the next time do several small ones, tackle another one or the other. So how do we want to approach this? Do you want to try to do all of the big accounts in one night?
I'm brand new to the process, but that sounds overwhelming.
well, I think, my only concern with doing police and fire and road, especially, this, what's being reviewed on the 12th, is I know there's preliminary discussion about potentially a $2 to $2.5 million fire station, right? And if that's going to be part of our discussions, that alone will probably be a lengthy discussion.
Okay.
So that would be a warrant article, although I think they would probably.
It depends on how they do it, right? We don't know.
That is true. They could attempt to put it in the budget. I doubt that, but one never knows.
I don't want to assume,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But what I do know is if that happens, right, in either event, warrant or budget, we're going to have a discussion about it, I'm sure. Right, so I just want to make sure we allocate our time properly.
I mean, I doubt they're gonna try and put it in the budget anyway, but just, is that even possible? Doesn't a $2.5 million fire station require a larger percentage of votes to pass?
not unless it's a bond.
Oh, okay,
The
yeah,
only
you're
thing
right.
is it guarantees that the main budget fails because
Well,
the
no,
increase is so high.
I was just thinking the procedure. I was just thinking
So
the way it's done. And-
Logistically,
and
it
that's
would not
correct.
be a wise move.
If it's a bond, it needs to be, and that's all I was thinking about, and I didn't think about that at first, correct. Now, look, to raise $2.5 million over and above in a single year, okay.
So when are we reviewing warrants? Do we know that yet or not?
Usually the last-
Warrants are usually the very last thing we review.
Yeah.
But
They
I-
usually don't even talk about them until the very end.
Right.
It could be mentioned that they're thinking about it.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Anyway.
Whenever we get the fire presentation, I'm sure they'll
Right.
talk about that, but the actual presentation won't be until we review warrant articles.
Yeah, I guess, my only other add to this discussion is, I would assume it's also a warrant, right? But I would also assume some type of discussion about personnel, right? And equipment and, all the other things that may be separate from the warrant article, but items that might be included in the budget, but they kind of go hand in hand, right? So I don't know even what that looks like.
That's a fair point, right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
It needs to be brought up if the intent is there
Okay.
while we're talking about the actual budget.
So what I think sounds like the best option then is not to tackle it all in one night. I'm gonna take the sort of 3 big items and I'll,
Last year's method went really well, so if you want to follow
Mhm.
like last year's, I think you can.
yeah, I'll take a look at what, and that's why I just, Troy's like, here's what I'm gonna do. He goes, what do you wanna do? So,
Kudos to him for that.
and he knows that the 12th is a full night and it may go beyond that, but that's what he's going to try to do.
So when is the town getting the budget to us?
The town is getting the budget to us on the 22nd.
That'll be the whole budget?
That's my understanding, the whole budget, because they should be done by then. What it will probably be, where they're working on it on the 21st, it may be a link, and he may bring,
Yeah, I'm sure he'll send a link out.
yeah, and we may just get the first night, just the budgets we're reviewing.
And you said they want to do it in 3 nights?
They're scheduling 3 nights for themselves. I don't want to do it in 3 nights here. I think I'm going to look at least 4 nights. And as I said, we have 6 set aside, so we could certainly, take our time in reviewing
Well,
it.
the other side of this, right, is, and I'm sure we're gonna get into this when we talk about bylaws later tonight, the whole date for review and date for vote, right, and whether or not we're gonna review on the same day or 2 separate days.
Yep.
I can't get on.
We can't have anything.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So we start discussion on the 22nd of budgets? Because you're saying 6.
I think the 22nd, I will expect a presentation, an overview of what's increased, what's decreased. We don't have health care schedules yet,
Then the next vote would be normal, like it would be. The 27th is almost like a holder in case you need it.
in case we need it.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling if we're going to have a warrant for a fire station, we'll probably need it.
To get back to Andrew's point, the fire station's coming out. I'm thinking it's more than just the presentation of the warrant article, or at least that's what I would like to see. Some form of drawings, schematics, cost per square foot, all those kind of things that I would expect would come up during the bond hearing or
Would we start with
the budget
asking
hearing.
if people are even interested in, or would we go right to that?
Again, this is just talk.
No, I come from a historical position
Yeah.
where the last, budget committee meeting many moons ago, they walked in with a proposal for a new fire station with this nice pretty picture that had the outside of the building, and that was it.
Right.
And having just gotten run over by the budget committee bus because of the school trying to build a new elementary school, where we got dinged for not having this little detail or that little detail, 7 members of the committee voted yes, and I voted no, and I just don't want to see that happen.
Understood.
That's all, and different fire regime, different selectmen, I'm not implying that would happen, I'm just trying to think ahead to, if you're gonna go forward with that, kind of make sure you've got your ducks lined up before you show up.
Right.
Well, the good thing is exhausted and removable.
Okay.
That's right.
So can I just clarify?
Yep.
So we get the budget on the 22nd, but we don't start reviewing it until the 29th, so we have a full
Right.
week.
Right.
Okay.
Take a look at it.
Where we can take in the overview, kind of the objectives and the goals of the town and. Yep.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right, so I'll put together, I like to sort of start, I'll put more detail to that for us then. All right, anything else on the town side?
Nope.
Anybody have any questions on town expenditures?
Nope.
All right. Moving on, bylaws. Andrew put together based on, I think there were 4 towns that we were able to find bylaws for, which all pretty much follow the same format.
And I pulled other towns too.
Did you?
Yeah.
And then I took what Andrew did and added some pieces to it, sent it out to you folks. The only response I got was a few, just tiny edits from Dennis, which was like more grammatical than anything else. So I want to go over what we have. That's all right. So the first section was just purpose. What is the reason we have bylaws? What good are they? What are we going to use them for? Section 2, I was able to pull in some of the history of when the Budget Committee was created in the town of Litchfield, and then, of course, when it was amended in 2013 to add an additional member. Pretty much, I think we just copied what the officers are. These came, I think, pretty much straight from the other communities.
Sorry, just to interrupt, maybe for those that might listen in or replay afterwards, maybe a 2-minute, update on why this bylaws document came to existence.
It's funny, I personally am a rules person. So, even my time on the school board, I was the one that got the committee going on updating all the policies and code of ethics and all of those kinds of things that help run a meeting and make sure that you know going forward year after year what to expect. This committee, my first couple of years, was not interested in bylaws. However, this last year, when we had a member resign and then we had another member resign, and there was a concern about what's the proper procedure to bring new members on board, it sort of brought up again the idea of bylaws so that we know year after year after year, when we create a budget, we have a resignation, whatever happens, we're not going to cover everything, but this will at least cover the things that have been an issue for the last couple of years that have cropped up but we've had to solve on the fly. So this is being proactive instead of reactive. That's kind of an overview of where the idea comes from.
Yeah, and not to supersede anything within the RSA 32, but more to complement and further elaborate on some key points.
Things that we have the ability to clarify or tighten up, and how we generally do business. For example, one of the things that, again, was an issue either this past year was when it's a tie vote. How does that wording go on a warrant article? So now we lay out, well, when that happens, here's what the wording is. So there's no more arguing in the future about, well, how do we appoint somebody? What's the proper wording? When do we re-vote if there was no actions taken at a deliberative session? All of those things that have cropped up, hopefully we've captured the ones we've had experience with. Going forward, there may be others, and we'll, again, every year amend these if we want to take into account those new things that crop up.
Good. Thank you.
So do you want comments as you're going through, or do you want to go through it and then take them?
Let's comment as we go through.
Okay, so my comment on the first section under purpose was, prior legal advice that I received said, don't put RSAs into your policies or bylaws or whatever you want to say, because if the RSA changes, you have to go back and update your bylaws to be in accordance, because you can't be out of sync. And then there's a clause later on that limits the editing of the bylaws to a certain period. So it doesn't coincide with the legislative year either. So I would just, anything that's a regurgitation of what's in the RSA, it's okay to reference that, but not put the text. Then if that provision changes, you're covered. So I would just, and I tried to flag some of those that were direct copies out of the RSA.
Okay, so under the first section, purpose, where we reference Municipal Budget Act, RSA 32, is there anything in there?
No, I'm just
Okay.
saying, just in general, the comment I had on that section was, don't cut and paste out of the RSA into the
Okay.
bylaws, because you'll make a headache for yourself.
Mhm.
Well, maybe nobody on this committee will be sitting here when the change comes, but somebody will have to deal with
Yep, fair point.
explaining why you're not following your bylaws.
Mhm. All right, section 2, organization, again, we just referenced that it is RSA 32 that we're following.
Well, my comment was, we use the at-large and elected are used interchangeably. And I don't know that that's exactly clear to anyone that might read them that isn't well-versed in terminology.
I believe, I'll have to check.
I'm just asking for maybe consistency.
I'm trying to
Pick one.
remember now.
Doesn't really matter.
If the warrant used the wording at large.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was 2013. Let me see if I can get to the town website.
And then my other comment while you look that up is to make that a bulleted list like all the other, except the word correct got me and made it bucketed list. Yes. Easy to complete, though.
Warrant articles. Budget Committee, to see if the town will vote to increase the at-large membership of the Budget Committee from 6 members as approved by the town in 1969 to 7 members. So they did use the words "at-large." It doesn't matter to me.
I was just looking for consistency when somebody
Yes.
reads it, so that if they're not familiar with election terminology or with the law, you might say, well, what's the difference between an at-large and an elected?
All right. Yep, we'll go with elected, because I do think you're right to keep it consistent.
So you want to take out at-large
At large, and
and
put in elected membership.
That was just more confusing. Oh, what's my math?
Yeah.
What do I vote for?
And again, that simply came because I
Especially if they come
I
from
used the
Nashua
wording
where,
from the
you know,
warrant
they have the
article.
at-large people overlaid over the precincts.
Yeah.
All right, members serve a staggered term of 3 years. Officers, nomination of an election.
I have a question on that point,
Mhm.
sorry. How will it work next year? When I think 4 positions will be up.
There will be 4 positions that can be
You'd have
voted on.
3 up to the 3 terms and 1 up to the remainder of whatever
Is that what it is?
bills would be. So you'd have
Well,
3
that was-
and 1. That's what they've had in school, I believe, when they've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There'll be 4 elected positions open, but it will be staggering terms. So I think bills will be 1 year left. And I'm not sure what Ray's term was. He may have even been up.
Yeah, it would be me, Kristen, and
Yeah, it would be
So
3.
there were 3 seats that would have been up anyways, and then the
Remainder.
other, right. Officers shall be by majority vote of those present. Chairman and vice chairman shall be elected at the first regularly scheduled meeting following the annual town meeting, but not later than April 30th. That's usually not an issue because we usually meet the end of March. If we don't meet the end of March, certainly we'll meet our regular meeting in April. So this is in that interim. In the case of a vacancy in the position of chairman following annual town meeting, the vice chairman shall immediately succeed to the position of acting chairman. During the first regularly scheduled meeting, the acting chairman will proceed with leading a discussion with the committee, and the committee will vote for a chairman to succeed to the position. In the case of both a vice chairman and a chairman are no longer on the committee, a deputy shall be nominated by the committee. During the first regularly scheduled meeting, the deputy will proceed with leading a discussion with the committee, and the committee will vote for a chairman and vice chairman to succeed the positions.
And the off chance that both the chairman and the vice chairman, that could happen.
Yeah, and it has happened in the past where the vice chair and the chair are no longer part of the new committee, in which case, usually it's a senior position.
Yeah, and that was
Or
added.
maybe not. Maybe
That
not,
one-
maybe that's something we want to specify.
That was not lifted from any of the bylaws. That was a scenario that I thought may happen, so I added it in.
Yeah, and these, again, these are laid out pretty identical to the other communities and what they do. I don't think we did anything new here.
The number 3 is.
Number 3 is,
Yeah,
okay.
Very
and no
logical.
other bylaws that I reviewed does it go over the scenario of both chairman and vice chairman.
Really interesting, because that has happened. I do recall it happening in Litchfield, so. And again, what I recall at the time was Bill Spencer was the one with the most history, and he kind of took over temporarily. But I think the committee choosing a deputy is the same thing as, hey, you've got the longest membership here, why don't you go ahead,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
What is and/or at the request of the Board of Selectmen or school board? What exactly does that mean in that number 3?
Oh, we're not down,
Oh,
we're not there yet, we're still
Skipping
here.
ahead.
Okay,
I was just trying to move the
Like
meeting
what?
along.
All right, moving on then, duty of officers. So chairman. Chairman shall preside at all meetings of the committee and perform all duties required by law. The chairman shall execute all documents requiring signature on behalf of the committee, except as otherwise provided by law or by the committee. The chairman has the responsibility to schedule all meetings, assemble the agenda and related materials, ensure adequate public notice of meeting dates, schedule meeting times and locations, schedule any special meetings required, and notify all members of the committee meeting schedule.
So I have a comment on that.
Mm-hmm.
We have scheduled meetings twice. There's a schedule all meetings in the first line, and then schedule meeting times
That
in
important.
the second line. The time really doesn't vary, neither does the location for the most part.
It just
but-
emphasizes
That's
how
true.
important that part of the
Yeah.
role is.
I mean, maybe just move schedule meetings
And
and
time.
locations in the first sentence, and then scratch that whole schedule meeting times and locations.
So schedule all meetings.
And locations.
And locations?
Yeah.
Would chairperson be more politically correct?
You know, I went back and forth about that. I initially started putting in chairperson, and then it gets a little
Just say the chair.
Yeah.
duties of the chair. That's the same, whether it be male or female. Yeah, I did that. I started putting chairperson in, and then I'm like, that just gets kind of long.
Like,
Next
I
thing you
looked
know,
this
we're gonna
up.
have to say
Did you?
Madam Chair.
Yeah, and they said
Right,
the
right.
proper is chairman, and it's just what, and it's not meant to be a man.
Male or female.
Male or female.
Yeah, I'm-
Right.
Well, up until a few months ago, men's rooms were men's rooms.
Hey, it's a new world.
So you want to make that
Yeah,
change to all,
right, what if
chair and
one
vice chair?
identifies the
Yeah.
chairwoman?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, you can even just define it
Just go
up above, but.
Chair and vice chair.
Somebody will need a safe space after the reading of
Yeah.
bylaws.
So,
It's good to know.
the chair has the responsibility to schedule all meetings and,
Meeting locations.
Meeting times and locations. Whatever.
I was trying to think of how to say it though, because, I mean, basically through Michelle, at the beginning of the year, I have to ask Michelle to make sure that we have this room reserved to us. So
Really?
I was just,
Schedule meeting times and locations.
But you're still basically
meeting times, okay.
doing that, you're just delegating.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's, I want to make sure that was in here so that if,
So if you want to make it easy, you can just get rid of to schedule all meetings from the top line and leave
Yeah.
the second line, which covers both.
has responsibility to,
Assemble the agenda and related materials.
I just crossed out those words.
Or we could defer
It's okay,
to
I got it.
Michelle's.
No, it's fine.
Yes.
I got it.
that's true, it's just crossing out one section instead of the whole
it's
second
fine.
section. All right. 3, the chairman, with approval of majority of the committee present and/or at the request of the Board of Selectmen or School Board, and Dennis inserted may shall.
For a discussion, because I don't know what word the committee wants to
Yep.
use.
Delegate certain members of the committee to investigate budgetary matters or serve on citizens committees or subcommittees.
So to your question,
Yeah.
right, this is addressing the building committee as an example, right, in which there was a budget committee asked to be joining that committee. Right, and then the committee will then vote on whether or not we will appoint somebody to that committee or not.
The
I think
chairman,
you
with
should
the
use may, though.
approval
May
of
delegate.
a majority of the committee present
Yep.
and/or at the request of the Board of Selectmen.
So you may get a request to be on a committee, I don't know, that doesn't come through the selectmen or the school board, and then it would be up to the committee just to vote, but we typically would get a request from either governing body.
Okay, the chairman.
That was the spirit of what was.
I'm just still trying to, yeah, I mean.
And that's why I like the word may.
Yeah, sure.
Because if it's a shall, then it says, if they ask, you
Definite,
shall.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like may,
May is proper.
and so members is lowercase. Serve on citizen committees or subcommittees, okay, no S. Yeah, I mean, we may have an issue, or for example, Andrew and I are working on a set of bylaws. We're kind of, in a way, a subcommittee that the whole committee created. So, yeah, there may be issues that we want just a couple people to go off and work on.
I think the more I'm concerned was about the whole Board of Selectmen or school board.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, like, could the Board of Selectmen or school board request us to do something, or,
Well,
because it's a different committee, so
That's-
shouldn't it be a member of this committee?
May.
May, that's
We're
what
gonna
they-
insert the
yeah.
word may
Okay.
delegate.
For example, the fire station, they may ask that a member of the budget committee sit on the development of a proposal.
May delegate, okay,
And you
May,
could-
right.
You could argue why it shouldn't be done, somebody else would argue why it should be done, and
Mhm.
we have the option to may or may not.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay,
May makes the difference, so.
okay. Vice chair. In the absence of the chair, the vice chair shall preside over and assume all duties and responsibilities of the chair in addressing business of any regularly scheduled or special meeting. At the request of the chair, provide assistance to the chair in the assembly of materials for regularly scheduled or special meetings. Secretary. So it seems as though many other communities actually appoint a member
Yeah.
to take the minutes, which I think is very hard to take minutes and participate at the same time.
So
And
do
I'm
we-
glad we don't do that.
So do we need that section then?
We do, because I think we need to spell out what we do currently,
Right.
which is the secretary is the custodian of official approved meeting minutes and shall sign the minutes as revised and approved.
Number 3 answers
The
the-
secretary shall transcribe and type minutes of the meeting pursuant to RSA 91A and forward to the chair, who will disseminate to the members. The secretary is a position hired by the town. Approved minutes are forwarded to the town administrator, where they are maintained as the official record. So this just spells out what our procedure is.
Right.
Yep. And who the gatekeeper is.
Mhm.
So you would eliminate the member of all the
Vacancies. A member-at-large vacancy. So there we have member-at-large again. Do we want to make that an elected member? An elected
How about a
vacancy?
vacancy on
A
the committee?
vacancy, right, because.
Well,
they
but
could-
you gotta be specific, because the board doesn't appoint for the selectmen or school board rep.
Sure.
Yeah, but the RSA doesn't allow that to happen, so you can't do something you're not allowed to do anyway.
An elected, a vacancy of an elected member?
Is it an elected position? How do you have a member that's vacant? Well, I could think of several ways, but
Elected position, okay. A vacancy of an elected position occurring during the year shall be filled by appointment by majority vote of the Budget Committee members as provided in RSA 3215. Should the vacancy occur during the months of March, April, or May, the chair of the committee shall offer the vacancy to the next highest vote receiver for Budget Committee seat that sought election to the committee in that year's annual town meeting.
So, I mean, look, this is created for which is really the reason why this whole bylaws document came up, right?
Mhm.
There's no other towns that have this spelled out, right? What I was thinking through is a 90-day period.
They don't, because they all appoint,
Well,
just like what we did. And I think you're totally wrong. You get enough, let's say like you have 4 seats that are opening up.
Yep.
To give that example next year. 5 candidates go, all right? That 5th candidate is someone nobody wants. Nobody. Okay?
Brian, I was trying to say it more politely than Brian, but.
Right? And that person gets 3 write-in votes. Next you know, your budget committee comes in session, someone quits, that person is on the budget committee.
Yeah, I'm not either for or against this, right?
Yeah.
It's here because it was the will of the committee to include something like this.
And I'm just saying I'm dead set against it. I mean, I'm just one voice, but I think the process should be exactly what we did, is you put it out there, it's someone who is interested, and if you look at the bylaws from the other towns, that's how they do it. They select. The budget committee itself selects that person. And it's similar to what we did with the school board also.
Well, so it's not an automatic. So, because I raised the same issue.
Yeah.
What if you've got somebody that's just a write-in candidate? Clearly, I would think the committee at that point would vote no, and then, because it just says, so my first comment was the second sentence seems to be kind of in conflict with the first. Because it's saying, we'll do it by appointment, and then we say, if it's in this time period, we'll do it this way. But we're really saying, we're first going to, so let's just use, you were the write-in candidate, Brian, so Cindy comes and says, Brian, are you interested in the position? And you say yes. You still have to get voted in by the committee, and we can vote no. And
Not according to this, though.
Yeah, according to this, it's the next person.
It
If
says
we
it
can
will
still vote no,
offer.
then I'm in favor of it. But the way I read this is, if it occurs in March, April, or May, they're in. You're right, it is contradictory, though.
That's the way I
Yeah, when I
interpret
read it, I was like, so,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the first sentence still matters, but.
What was the intent? Is the intent that?
Have a discussion. That was the intent.
Maybe change offer to notify the next highest vote receiver that there's an opening.
I think the thought process, or the way I interpret it is, yeah, if you've got a fifth person, and now I hadn't thought about write-in, I was thinking on the ballot. But you're right, a write-in, although, yeah.
They're the next highest vote getter.
If someone gets 2 votes, the thought, and yet you may get, that fifth person that no one really wants, but you know what? Probably people voted for that person.
You never know what kind of perspective that person can bring anyway. So to me, that's the way the democratic process works. It doesn't always work to your advantage. It is what it is, and just by discounting a person that you don't like from personality doesn't mean that their point of view is not valid. You don't know what that person might have to bring.
So
Why else?
what does
would
it have to do with
So
the
if
personality?
nobody wants them, though there's a reason nobody wants them. You don't know whether or not they're not qualified. Clearly, they're qualified enough to garner some votes. So what would be the basis for nobody wanting them?
So why wouldn't we do that all year round, then?
I would be fine with that, but it's clearly not going to be enough of a.
Yeah, I could be fine with that also, quite honestly, because I'm kind of troubled. I mean, this is the dirty part of the political structure. I mean, who are we, anybody sitting here, to say, well, you're not good enough? I mean, come on. It's what? Because if this.
Well, that's why you interview the person to find out whether or not they are the right person for the right fit.
They stuck their neck out. So 5 days after the election, right, now we just say, well, we didn't like that fifth person, so let's put it out and have people come to the table. If these people were interested, they should have had the name on the ballot. At least that fifth person that maybe a couple people in this room might not like for whatever reason, at least they had the guts to go through the process, stick the neck out. But 5 days later, all of a sudden now people are going to come up to try and get a seat that their friends are going to vote them in. They should have put the name on the ballot and maybe either won or been that fifth person in case somebody resigned. So
A perfect example, though, just happened. There was 2 individuals that ran, that received almost the same amount of votes as the last 3 people, and they don't want it.
and that's fine. If they don't want it, they don't want it.
There's another thing for that.
According to this bylaw, we'd offer it to them. We'd put them on the seat.
Well, correct, and then they could say, I don't want it. I mean, they wanted enough to run,
Yeah.
So,
They didn't want it once.
and that's fine, but then they could turn it down, of course.
Yes,
And-
they can turn
Or
it down.
in a scenario in which there are no interested parties, then they do it. then
And I
they
don't
have to
believe in the
advertise.
write-in thing. I mean, Mickey Mouse gets votes.
Yeah.
So the point is, I mean, look, that common sense should say, if it's a write-in and it's 2 votes, I mean, that shouldn't count. So it should be anybody on the ballot. I mean, if you got to reword it. I mean, we're making this really difficult to try and get to a result that satisfies us. I mean, set a rule and stick with it.
And that's why it's better
Right.
to do it now.
Right, I agree.
While we've got candidates sitting in the audience wondering what's going on.
So I would say the next person in line, within that time frame is fine. If you want to make the next person in line until the day before the next election, if somebody resigns, I'm fine with that
Right,
too.
Are you
but
saying the next person in line gets the position right away, or
the
does
next
that
person,
person have
they're
to come in and
offered,
still be?
they're offered the position.
Offered without being interviewed, just so
Correct.
the chair would go to that person,
Be-
say
be-
what you get the third. most
Correct.
vote. She'd go to you, do you want the chair, and you say yes, and you come in?
Absolutely, because you stuck your neck out, you went through the process, you stood up at candidates night, you
There was no candidates night.
look,
Some
in theory,
years
if it was
there
there. So you went through the process. So it's, in my mind, it's the right thing to do as opposed to somebody else coming in, because then you can make the argument, the way politics works, you can cut a deal. You can start now calling your friends, hey, I want you, come on, I'll help get you in, So if you could look at it the other way, that's politics. If you don't pick something that seems fair and stick with it, it could be soured both ways.
What happens when the person resigns June 1st?
What does this say?
Covered by policy.
Covered by policy.
This is the
So-
line in the sand that defines what you do.
So what I say is you pick that line and you don't make it squishy. You don't say, well, we'll stick with this system unless 3 people don't like that person that only got 400 votes instead of 500 votes. For whatever reason, you don't like them. Because then the alternative to that was, we're gonna get these 3 people to pick our good friend and get them in here and say, don't worry, whatever you say, we'll vote for you and get you in. So it could go, I mean, I tell you, this is what's dirty about the whole system. Pick something, this seems totally fair. You gotta put something in here to rule out somebody that got 3 votes. That's a write-in, because they didn't stick their neck out.
So I agree, I had not thought
Yeah.
about the write-in, but I do agree, if you put your name in
Right.
January, you ran for the position
Right.
through March, and had every intention of winning, then you deserve consideration.
Right.
Yeah, if someone wrote you in that one day on election day, that I think is different.
So,
Okay.
I think it should be, but why are we drawing our line in the sand? What is so magical about June 1st? Like,
It's
why
just-
are we?
Compromise.
The idea was a 90-day window, that's it. There's nothing magical about it, that
Yeah,
was the, that
could
was
be
the thought.
60 days, could be
But the
30
same
days.
scenario, and I think you're right, the scenario you described of there is a possibility for a side of the committee to
Right.
kind of gang up on another side of the committee. So I think it should be year-round. I
I'm
don't know why
perfectly
you
willing
wouldn't.
to consider, and if it was a majority, to have that same thought go right to the very end. My line in the sand is I'm playing the balance game, so 3 months is fine. If he said 4 months is fine.
But here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. We're in September, we're reviewing our budgets, you now have a new committee member that doesn't have all the back history for budgets, and we're meeting twice a week or at least every week, right?
But you're going to have that anyway,
Will-
right?
Will that person, well, if you're going through the appointment process, potentially not, because that could take up a month, right? A month and a half or 2 months, depending upon when the committee votes to appoint somebody in.
Always have a special meeting.
Or you could have a special meeting.
Well, actually, the law is pretty clear. You can't just give the person a position. The budget committee has to appoint him, so the budget committee has to vote, independent of who, whether it's the next vote getter or somebody that's coming from the community. It's not an automatic.
Correct.
We can give this to John Smith because John was the 5th highest vote getter in the election. The committee still has to vote to appoint that person. So they would need a majority support, which kind of,
Right.
It addresses both.
So when
it takes care of the write-in, because the committee could just say, yeah, well, they didn't even try to run. It also, then it's up to individuals to vote yea, nay on that 5th.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, because the same situation happened. I mean, Andrew came, and there wasn't a vote, but who knows what would have occurred if there was a vote.
Well, you can't base anything on what happened this year. I mean, you can't use this year as.
Yeah, you can, but
I mean-
what Dennis is saying, I mean, that's the way it should be. It's like, you want to bring the next vote getter in here to be interviewed and then vote on it?
Yes, that's what you have to do under the law.
Yes, but you can say that person should receive a majority vote.
Well,
So,
that can be the opinion, but it doesn't have to be, we're still gonna have to
Then what's
vote.
the point of even having it
Read my
then?
I can tell you what the point, the point is this, because if our bylaw said the go-to person is going to be the next person in line, that's the go-to, there's no discussion that a person comes here, we have a talk. So we already agreed to the rules. So now the burden is on somebody. I'm not gonna pick on you, but I'm gonna say your name. If you really, for some reason, didn't like that person, the burden is now on you to convince everybody else why that one person, over and above what we already agreed upon, should not be there, because I'm gonna stick with it if I'm here, and I'm gonna say, I'm going with it because that's what we agreed on.
And it's very possible you would go with that
So would
person, but I
that change
think
the
offering it to the
application?
next voter, I have no problem. Offering that, the next person with the most amount of votes to come in to the committee and
I
present
think you
themselves. to the
notify
committee.
them of the vacancy is
So-
how you wanna phrase that.
so.
But
you're
we
ri-
did that.
Wait a minute, you're right. So,
Would anything have changed with this bylaw?
it does say,
Because I voted on process.
Okay.
So,
So did I.
so it does say that the vacancies are
That's supposed to
filled
be.
by appointment by the budget committee.
Really?
So I,
You got a problem right now?
wait, what, I missed something, but I don't think I want to go there.
Because I said I voted on process, and I get the face over there like, yeah, right.
All right, well,
I cannot challenge what you believe your intent was.
That's correct, you
My
can't.
perception of your intent does not.
all right, so Michelle had some wording. So it seems as though this isn't clear because it does sound like the next highest vote getter automatically gets in. But you're right, the RSA does say that this committee has to appoint. So the committee shall vote on the appointment. In the event that candidate is not appointed, the budget committee shall seek interested persons in the community. But basically, I think what that does is the next highest vote getter comes in. Do we want to appoint that person or not? The next highest, go through the line.
Right.
Because there's always 5 extra people for the budget committee.
Yeah, always.
It's like a school board.
However, the one other piece that I would add is I do think it has to be people on the ballot.
Right.
I do think it has to be people who were previously on the previous.
If you went through,
Exclusive of write-ins.
Exclusive of.
if you
right.
went through the process, you deserve consideration.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, does say the next highest vote receiver for the budget committee seat?
With their
That
name
could be
right
right
on the ballot.
You just want any?
That sought election. So in other words, it is.
But you can have
But-
writing candidate with some
yeah.
signs
That's
who
true,
can say
I
they
think-
sought the.
I think you
why
just
don't we
say
add-
with their name on the ballot.
Why don't we add a
Ballot.
point D and say write-ins excluded?
You know what I'm saying? So if you talk about process.
Right, I mean, just break it out separately, call it out directly, write-ins excluded.
Well, so,
Registered
well,
candidate.
part of me also says, I
Certified
know there
candidate.
have been people that didn't get on the ballot for whatever reason, yet ran an aggressive write-in campaign and actually won.
Kevin just brought up the same
I,
thing.
I just brought that up, and what I was saying, you go to general election, you know, if I wanted to vote for you for the United States president, I could do that, and write you in. So that is due process as far as, that's part of the process that we're talking about right now, so.
But I know-
I just said that to her.
Who obtained more than 20 votes?
Yeah, a threshold might be a good way to.
Yeah, and
Who obtained more than 50 votes? Pick a number, but that way, that weeds out the, hey, I don't like any of these people, just write, my people on my street are gonna write my name in. So pick a number. Who garnered more than X number of votes in the prior election?
You could probably do like 1%.
yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just throw a
So if
number in there.
1,000
Someone
people
that
voted
writing,
and you got 100
then
votes.
I had a good idea.
Actually, no, you got 10 votes.
That's it, that's what you get. That's 1%, that's about the average.
Yeah.
But that way, if there's somebody that was the writing candidate, because the one that struck me was, it was incredibly brilliant, because he handed out sharpened pencils with his name on it. So you walked in with your pencil with his name and you went in the
I'm
voting
sure that's
booth.
not legal anymore.
I don't think it is
I don't
anymore,
think
but
it
it was a
is.
brilliant idea. This
It
was like
was a-
10 years ago. I'm like,
Oh,
that's
it
a
was a
really great
Long
idea.
time ago, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yep.
No, I don't think he ended up winning, but he got, more than 100 votes.
I can remember one year for budget committee, there were empty seats, no one signed up for. And there were 3 people, I think, who won by,
I was
what,
one of
like
them.
12 write-ins?
Yeah, I was one of them. Yeah.
All right.
I would go with 1 or 2 or whatever the acceptable percentage is to the committee of the total vote. If there's 1,000 people that vote, which is not an abnormal number, it's usually a little higher, they can get 10 votes. Maybe it's 5%, you gotta get 50 votes, I don't know.
So again, this is just offer the vacancy, they come in, they get voted on, or up or down. And in a way, that's kind of what we ended up doing. We offered it to the 3 candidates after our first go-around, and then we had some decline. So that's kind of the process that we did end up following.
So what happens if there's, 4 positions open next year? And only 2 people run and there's 2 vacancies? What happens then? Do we follow this? Well, no, we can't follow this, right? So,
Write-ins.
Generally, there'll be write-ins.
write-ins.
And it may be people that only have 2 or 3 votes.
And it'll be offered, right, and it,
Well, no.
No, they would get it.
They get elected.
Get
Two
elected.
You have the
people sign up
yeah, you have the
As long
What
as
if that
as long
person
as they
doesn't want
get
it?
seated, as long as they get
Right.
sworn and get
Well,
seated, then.
they-
what if
win
the
the
right,
election.
what if the write-in
No, if-
doesn't want
If
it?
there's 2 people running,
Yeah.
for 4
Oh, I
seats,
see, I see. And
the
the
write-ins
write-ins win,
win.
yeah.
Actually, no, you are correct. The town clerk calls the person up and says, you received 5 votes for budget committee. Are you willing to serve? And they can say yes or no, because, sometimes people railroad the neighbors too. So, yeah, it's not a guarantee. They do have the option to decline.
but they would decline, though. It is offered to them.
But the truth is, I know, because I counted ballots one year, there's a lot of different names written in. So there might be, 4 people, 1 person with 6 votes, 1 with 3 votes, and 9 with 1 vote.
Run through the
I
whole-
doubt that's gonna happen where we're not gonna have anybody. There'll always be somebody. There's a lot of names on there,
Yeah.
typically.
So that's never happened
It's
before?
never- not that I know, I've been paying attention for
There's
many
always been
years.
enough write-ins to
Yeah.
fill any positions as far as.
There's
I know.
always write-ins
Yeah.
and enough of them, and even if 5 people said no, there'll probably still be enough with one vote that'll say yes.
So there's no reason for the bylaws to address
I don't
what's
think so.
happening.
But you could put a percent on it and say you gotta be able to get 1% of the vote, or whatever number. of people.
Well, that's talking if you were appointed.
Right.
Yeah. But if you only got one
Yeah, that's
vote,
true.
you win
Yeah.
if you say yes.
I mean, so.
Just get ready for that in the next election. I mean, you're looking for fill 4 seats. That's nothing to eat.
What's misleading is they only report typically, I think if you get more than 5 or 10 write-ins, has always been what's done, so. Because I'm with Chris, I did it one year, and we had 3 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper with
Wow.
people's names
A
on
lot of
them.
names.
You know, so-and-so gets one, oh yeah, it's painstaking if you ever get,
Ever have the honor?
if you ever have the honor to count, you want to do it not when there's 2,500 people that vote, but when 1,000 people vote, it's much
So,
easier.
Where does this leave us?
So what I'm thinking is, should the vacancy occur during the months of March, April, or May, the chairman of the committee shall offer the vacancy to the, I think all candidates who received
If we're
1%
not
of.
even offering the vacancy, though, we shall bring.
Notify them of the vacancy.
It says, offer the vacancy to
Notify.
candidates with automatic in.
Right.
So, but we're sticking with March, April, May? We're not going to do this year round?
No, because I think by the time you get to June, July, or more importantly, I think over the summer not much happens, but by the time you get into budget season, now you want to interview people to make sure, have they been keeping up, do they know what the issues are? And so not necessarily, somebody who lost back in March may not have any idea what's going on.
Yeah, but I guess my only problem is what the scenario that Chris described is kind of what pushed me towards this, and that now can happen if it's an open process in September, October, throughout the rest of the year.
But I'll tell you, when you get to October, somebody with experience is way more important, in my opinion, coming in that's been through it. You typically look for somebody that was on it at one point, might come back for 6 months. I'm just saying, I know we had a vacancy.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm sitting here, I'm brand new to the process. So me having been here for March, April, May hasn't helped me.
Are you gonna resign in October?
No.
Okay.
No. What I'm saying is that,
No, I understand. It's a valid point.
that experience, I don't,
And the person may say no, that you notify of the vacancy.
yeah.
I don't have any problem doing it year-round, because the committee still has to vote. And the committee may decide that, having Bill Spencer come back might be more important to certain members than having the next vote getter get that position, based on where you are in the year, just as an option.
I agree 100%.
All right, so help me out here.
Seems the consensus.
Yeah. A vacancy of an elected position occurring during the year shall be filled by appointment by majority vote of the budget committee members as provided in RSA 3215.
So I would stop the first bullet right there. That's your first bullet. Take whatever the text for the next highest vote getter and make that a sub.
Okay.
Or B. Well, I'm saying if you make it a sub, then it's clear.
Like a
It
one,
goes up.
one.
Yeah, whatever the right thing is.
So, the chairman of the committee shall notify,
The next highest vote getter, receiver.
is that what we're doing?
Get her.
Getter. I like getter.
How about shall notify the candidate on the ballot who received the next highest vote?
Yeah.
Well, that
Sounds a little
excludes,
more grammatically
but that
correct.
excludes write-ins.
Excluding write-ins?
No, that
No,
would
that
exclude
does
write-ins
exclude
because their
write-ins.
name's not on the ballot.
Oh, that's right.
If that,
Offer the vacancy to those who are on the ballot in the previous election. Because basically it's a nice way of informing those who ran, giving them the courtesy to know that, by the way, there's a vacancy.
Oh, so you're opening it up to everybody, not just the next highest vote getter?
yeah, I think we
I
want-
thought we said people on the ballot, people who had the,
Well, in order, so if there
Okay.
was 3 people, you could notify them all, right?
Okay.
But the first person that'll get the vote of the committee was the next one in line, and if they say no, move out, and the next one sit in.
okay,
let's
I
go.
missed that
Right.
subtlety. All
or if
right,
they get voted down.
all right. So should the vacancy, no vacancy. The chairman of the committee shall notify the next highest vote receiver for budget committee seat that sought election to the committee in that year's annual town meeting.
Yep, so all that does is says you're going to notify them.
Right.
They say, yes, I'm interested, no, I'm not.
Then you go to the next
You
one.
move from there.
Can you say that again?
The chairman of the committee shall notify the next highest vote receiver for budget committee seat that sought election to the committee at that year's annual town meeting.
Then what? So we notify them, then what, to bring to?
Well, then it goes back to, they have to be appointed.
So do you say this person will be brought in for review? It kind of leaves it hanging. You've notified them, now what?
Well, the chair would notify them and ask them if they're interested and then come in.
Right, shouldn't that be in there? But now we're just saying we're just gonna notify them, so, I've notified them, now what?
Well, I think that's the next piece that it gets addressed, right? Because then they have to come before the committee and
So one would argue
have to
that
vote.
if you got notified and you were interested, you'd say, okay, what do I have to do? Or, okay, I'll come to the next meeting. If you're not interested, you might not do anything. But,
I think we're spinning our wheels.
I think you could say notify them and bring them, provide them with the opportunity to come in before the committee. It just kind of feels like, okay, so you've notified them and then there's no next step.
Yeah, and invite them
Yeah, there you go.
to,
fill the vacancy.
Well,
up-
to
or-
invite them to meet with the board budget committee, or to invite them for a vote.
Invite them for a vote before the budget committee.
Just need to close the loop on that
and invite them to seek appointment.
yeah.
one. Yeah, perfect. Ship it.
So we're going to strike B.
Well, no, because I still think
Then do you say then, in the
Yeah.
event the person turns it down, we
Oh,
move
in the
down?
scenario which there are no other interested persons, that in the seat that formally sought election to the committee shall advertise in local media and seek to appoint a person to the committee.
And actually C is just,
Yeah.
you're just stating the RSA is what you're stating.
Yeah, so we basically have A, which is the first sentence, B, which is a new sentence, B becomes C, and C becomes D.
Or you can get rid of C.
You get rid of C, that's RSA. That goes without saying.
Because you've already said in the first thing, as provided by RSA 3215. So 3215 says exactly what.
Well,
the
and
current C
to your
says.
point, should we be that detailed with the specific RSA being referenced, or should we leave it more generic?
Not up leaving it generic.
I think it's fine generic. The reason I think new C is important, because I think establishing that the committee will advertise in the community as opposed to, hey, my neighbor would really be interested in the
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
I think that says we're gonna
I think
open
was
it
to
up
get rid
at
of-
large.
I don't
it was
think
to get rid of D.
anybody's
No.
arguing the
Oh.
new C, it's removing the current C.
Right.
Because it's just a regurgitation of the RSA.
That's law. That's not our bylaw, that's law.
That is true. That is true.
So that's a known, that's a given.
I think it's more of a good reminder, though.
You could put it in italics and just remove it as a C, just as a point of reference.
Unless, well, I would just, if you're going to do that, then I would supersede it with unless superseded by RSA, any appointed person serving, and that way if the law changes.
Or just leave it out. I doubt the law will ever change. It's, any appointed person is standard, I think, probably all over the country,
To go to the end of the
to
term.
serve out just it doesn't
the
serve
next
out the
election.
term, it just serves to the election.
Yeah, that's true, because, what's funny is other communities use
Have that in there. They
That's
do.
right.
Yeah.
But, they're public documents. So if somebody's stumbling across this, or
Mhm.
reading it for the first time, it might be like, oh, I didn't realize that. Just because everybody here on the committee understands the extent, doesn't mean somebody reading it from the community.
But I'm guessing
might
from
not
the other
understand.
point of view, what other law should we state here? I mean, is it necessary to state?
Well, this is clearly associated with vacancies.
Okay. I mean, look, I don't care if it's in there, that's fine.
You know, if my neighbor doesn't understand and they come across this, like, oh, well, that's interesting, I didn't realize that. Whereas I'm just assuming that everybody's got the same level of civic knowledge as Chris Pascucci might be a little, you know, that's setting the bar kind of high.
Other people have lives that they do, unlike me.
All right, so, yay or nay, are we keeping it or getting rid of it?
I think it hurts. It doesn't, there's no harm by keeping it there.
It's fine. Move it.
Honestly, no opinion. I think it's
hadn't really
fine.
thought about it. All right, we'll leave it there because it's just information.
Doesn't matter.
All right. And we'll send this out again in draft form in case.
You kind of leave, now, after the B, the new B, and then you go right into, in the scenario in which there are no other interested persons.
Yep.
How do you get from B to C? Do you want to put the committee shall vote on the appointment in there, just to kind of flow it?
Good point. So we invite them to seek appointment, however, they may not be appointed by the committee. So, in the scenario where the committee chooses not to appoint,
I think you just add it to the B, in the scenario in which there are no, not to appoint, or there are no other interested persons.
which there,
So would you not then offer it to the second highest vote getter? You wouldn't offer it in?
Yeah, if they're there.
Or do you just say, we offered it to the first person, now we open it up? So that kind of, that's how that reads.
Well, I think the new B, you would iterate on. So if there was someone that had 100 votes, you'd offer it, and then they said no. If there's somebody that had 50 votes, you'd offer it.
Or if there was no one else running.
Yeah, then, well, I'm just saying, if you get through everybody on the ballot,
Right.
and nobody, either they're not interested or the board votes them down, then you go to
That's not
the
stated right
community.
now in there, is there? The current draft.
Well, I'm thinking you just iterate on
Right.
new B.
Okay.
And do
There's
we,
still a vacancy after that first person says no, so you offer it to the next highest vote getter.
Okay.
That's
And do-
how I interpreted it.
yeah, but so do we keep going down the line
I think
to,
you keep going down the line.
write-ins to the 5-person, the 3-person, the 1-person?
I think
No,
that's where the
because-
threshold kicks in.
No, because we excluded write-ins.
We didn't.
We never formally
That's right,
identified
that's right, we
how
didn't exclude, once we go through the system, that's right. Yeah.
So
Alright.
they had to be on the ballot.
Yeah, but we said, didn't we say once,
It's still processed.
That's sought election. I mean, you could argue over the semantics of sought election. Did I
Yeah.
put my name in the ballot? Well, I was a write-in candidate and I put signs out, I sought election.
That's where the whole Garner and 1% comes in.
Yeah.
yeah, the chairman of the committee
First three keys.
shall notify the next highest vote receiver for budget committee seat that sought election to the committee at that year's annual town meeting and invite them to seek appointment until a member is appointed.
you know, let me, just what I just said, I was crossing two things, when I just said that. If somebody resigned within whatever the first 3 months are going on, we were gonna go to the next person in line that was on the ballot. And that process stops if there's no one else on the ballot. Where the write-in votes came in had nothing to do with us. The write-in votes came in the scenario where 2 people ran for 4 seats, then the town clerk would go through all the write-ins, all the one voters, because that's the law, it would be offered. We already excluded write-ins based upon our system. So if we went through the next 2 people on the ballot that weren't running, or if there was no one else running, if there was 3 people running for 3 seats, they all got in, 1 resigned, there's nobody to go to, which means you have to open it up at that point.
Right.
That's it.
But how we excluded write-ins?
No, we did exclude write-ins. Well, I guess we excluded write-ins up to a certain percentage,
We
right?
haven't,
Well, that's not, that text isn't there.
we haven't gotten there yet. Those are ideas that have been kicked out, but it hasn't actually been incorporated into the draft.
Well, when we were talking about excluding write-ins up to a certain point, I think
Yeah.
that makes sense, because there could be 30 people that each got 1 vote. How are you gonna manage that?
Yeah,
So that's
you
what you
can't,
say.
that's why I think the 1% might be
Chairman,
the,
chairman of the committee shall offer a vacancy to the next highest vote receiver, comma, who received 1% of the total vote,
Or greater.
at least 1%
Yeah.
of the total vote,
Right.
for the budget committee seat that saw an election, and then that way you're not going down to the ones and twos and threes.
Right.
Then what do alphabetical order? By height? How do you pick one?
Put them in a hat and pull them out.
Yeah, there has to be an exclusionary method.
Okay. Chairman of the committee shall notify, okay, because you said offer.
Yeah, I was just reading the text, but I
Yeah,
should
okay,
have
so the
said
chairman of
both.
the committee shall notify the next highest vote receiver who received at least 1% of the vote for budget committee seat that sought election to the committee at that year's annual town meeting and invite them to seek appointment. I wrote until a member is appointed,
Then what?
and then, if that doesn't happen, in the scenario in which there are no interested persons in the seat that formally sought election to the committee,
Well, I think-
advertise in the media and
I think you got to change there are no other interested. In the scenario where no candidates are appointed, then we go to the open,
Right, because they could be interested and we vote them down.
Right.
and somebody would pull the bylaws out and say, but I'm
Mhm.
interested.
Right.
Mhm.
No, it's good.
Appointed, okay. In the scenario in which no candidate is appointed,
Who was on the ballot? Or sought election, I guess you could use the same terminology.
It's good, and we can always update these bylaws, right?
yeah, yes.
Yeah, it's in there. That's
All right,
how to do
so
it.
we'll rework this section and send that out for
Progress has been made.
comments. And so when you get it, just send it back to me and I'll try to compile, hopefully, people aren't too far off. I'll try to wordsmith people's suggestions.
No, but I think it's been really good feedback and discussion. So.
And see, this is what helps when we get together. People think of things that nobody else thought of.
Mm.
And so this is good. And this is why I think it's good that it happens now. Because when you're in the heat of a crisis, you don't want to be wordsmithing it. Because you're going to wordsmith it with what you are, your prejudice that you already have. Because everybody has a prejudice, so. All right. Next section, Section 5, Responsibilities and Duties of the Budget Committee. All members shall make every effort to attend each meeting. Unexcused absences from 3 consecutive regularly scheduled meetings shall be just cause for the committee by majority vote to request the member's removal from office. A member at large shall cease to hold office immediately upon missing 4 consecutive scheduled or announced meetings of which the member received reasonable notice without being excused by the chair as provided in RSA 3215.
What's the definition of an excused absence?
Yes, please.
It's the next thing down.
But even so, before we get that far,
It's the
member
chairman's
at large
decision.
becomes an elected member, right? Because
Right, the chairman decides what's
Elected
excused and
member, yeah.
unexcused.
So what was interesting to me, the first part of that, missing 3 meetings and having the committee ask the person to resign is not covered by RSA. The second part of that is actually RSA. After 4 missed meetings, you're done. I think, I get emails all the time. I don't have a babysitter, I'm out of town on business, I'm stuck in traffic. Those are excused absence. If you come to the meeting, it's like, gee, I didn't hear from Joe, I wonder where Joe is. And I send an email, hey, Joe, you missed the last meeting, I get no response. The next meeting comes, and I think it's where the person just drops off the face of the earth. To me, that's an unexcused absence.
But that's also called a resignation, right?
Well, it's not a formal.
Right, technically, you just totally ignore everything, in theory you resign.
Well, the other key.
It just took you 4 meetings to understand it.
After
But hold
4
on.
meetings.
The other key word here is consecutive, right? So if we're in September, in October, right, and we're meeting weekly or twice a week, right, and you're missing Tuesday, Thursday, and the following Tuesday, right, then you've missed 3 consecutive meetings.
But,
Excused or unexcused, I don't know.
But they're always excused.
Maybe not.
well, this doesn't say,
Well, here's the thing, first of all, you're right, we can't do
without
something.
being excused excused.
Yeah, we can't do something the RSA doesn't allow, so if the RSA doesn't allow after 3 meetings, there's nothing, even with the request of the chair and a vote by the board, that you could do.
I think that's a nice thing, to ask somebody, like, but, you know, are you
If you're-
interested?
if you're not
What's
committed-
going on?
Right, but it says here with a vote, okay, I guess you could, make a vote to ask the person. You can't vote the person off.
Correct.
Okay. So you-
Maybe we just scratch it all together and default to what's in the RSA.
Right, the RSA is there, but I'm guessing more, I mean, this came up not only because of this, is what's an excuse. I mean, and I see it on all boards, quite honestly. You turn the TV on boards and you see, the same person's out again, and again. So I'm guessing either somebody's gonna totally drop off the face of the earth, which is just, I guess, a cowardly resignation, right? And that never happens, people resign, but many people miss meeting after meeting after meeting. So I'm guessing it doesn't really pertain, it's so vague, because all you gotta do is say, I don't have a babysitter, or I'm working late, or whatever, and you can miss a ton of meetings.
As long as they make that effort, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's almost, take it all out, it doesn't matter.
I've only heard of, and this was over 20 years ago, where someone just stopped showing up. And then, while I've been here, I only know of one time where I couldn't get a hold of somebody, and the whole month went by, and then the next meeting, they're like, oh, did we have a meeting? So I don't think I even called that unexcused, but that in my mind is unexcused, like when you make repeated attempts to figure out what's going on with person A.
Everybody's connected.
Huh?
Especially now that everybody's connected in one form or another. It's like-
The issue was that the town email wasn't working. It wasn't their primary email, the town email wasn't working.
Right.
So that's the
What do you do?
closest I've come to it unexcused.
You couldn't even send a Facebook message to them, so.
I mean, the responsibilities and the duties of the budget committee, I mean, is that appropriate for the bylaws? Because that's hey, refer to RSA 32 and you'll
Might be
see what
too
their responsibilities are. You know?
You know, does it hurt to have it?
Yes. You don't need extra words. If you don't, just put refer to and just list it. You
No,
know?
I think it helps. I mean, I think it helps to spell it out, because for one thing, to try to find the RSAs, and then to try to figure out the jargonese of the
You say
bylaws.
attach it to this.
As a reference, that's not a bad idea, but I do think that the jargon of the RSAs, a lot of times you'll have to read them 3 and 4 times to try to figure out exactly what they're talking about, so.
I think it does no harm to have it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, other than it's a nice thing to do after 3 meetings, to say, hey, are you interested or not, what's going on?
And if somebody's interested in running for the position, they can be like, okay, well, what bylaws am I signing on to? Oh, okay, can I live with that? Doesn't hurt.
I think it's a good, document, if someone's interested in running, well, what does it take to be in a budget committee? But trying to find the RSAs, if you're not somebody who's been involved, it's intimidating, so I think this makes it less intimidating.
Not everybody is at your level, okay? Just think of the rest of
I mean,
us.
look, I'm certainly, I would never be considered the brightest guy, not even in this room, but the RSAs, that's simple language. I mean, come on. Does anybody find that the RSAs, especially the budget, complicated language, seriously?
No, but it's
No,
vague.
but I didn't review any RSAs prior to putting my name on the ballot, and if this existed, I absolutely would have reviewed it.
Why do we need to then write out what a chairman does? Doesn't everybody who goes from high school know what a chairman does? Why should we put that in?
Well, in a way, I agree. I mean, the purpose, I thought, of this is very simple, because we all can't agree on a little part when it came to a vacancy. So basically, I thought of bylaws was to take something that is somewhat vague and fine tune it a little bit. So you pick 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 things out of the RSA, and you say, that could be vague, and you know what's proof of it? Because we just got into a 2-month fight over it, so it's obviously vague and an issue. What else is vague? Well, that part's vague, let's work on that. Basically, we took a couple things, and we're just adding a bunch of stuff into it, stuff that's not even vague. I mean, it's not vague
Job
that,
description.
it's not vague that if you miss 4 meetings, that's
So
not vague.
recommend deleting the section.
So, you're right, it's very cut and dried about
vague.
missing 4 meetings.
Right.
Do we want to, after 3 meetings, try to get in touch with the person and say, hey, what gives?
That's
We
you
don't-
see, that's a different story.
That's our choice.
Right.
Do we want to do that or not?
Right. Yeah, if you're missing 3 meetings, because I'm always, you can always say it's excused. If you know 4 meetings, you're automatically out. All you gotta do is, it's like, hey, what, the dinner party's going on, and I'd rather be there. I'm sorry, I got tied up, I can't make the budget committee. It's just, it's excused. So, yeah, I think that's the case, because that's taking something, we're not changing the law. You can't do that legally, but we're saying as a group, this is what we want to do. That, to me, that's a bylaw. A bylaw, to me, isn't just cutting and pasting the RSA, because that's the RSA.
Right.
So my bylaws, I'd have the stack of, I mean, if this is easy to find, like we just said, if everybody's running and it's easy to find, just attach the RSAs to it. So if you're gonna find this, you automatically have the RSAs. So the RSA in the bylaws
You have
fine-tuned.
an appendix where you attach.
I would just add the link.
Having
I
said
wouldn't even
that-
add
The
it.
link, yeah, because it'll change,
Yeah.
that is true.
Having said that, if you wanna make this 7, 8, 9, 10 pages and just kinda repeat some and not the other, I'm good with that too. I'm
Yeah.
fine.
I think it's a good job description.
Okay.
So, back to, do we want to keep the 3
Yes.
in there? Okay. Notice of absence shall be made to the chairman and vice chairman. We don't generally require the notice to the vice chairman, so
Neither does the law.
I don't think they spell out any
It
notice.
says the chair in
It's
in
the
the
chair?
RSA.
So,
The-
Probably just accept.
I would
assuming
say
that in
to the
event you're
chairman
not
or
here-
vice chairman.
The chair's not here, then somebody.
Yeah, I would say or.
Right.
But you have 3.
And/or?
And, no, I think
No.
or.
Just one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or. Because you can't,
I'm good.
if the law does not enable it, you can't do it.
Yeah. For example, if, you know, I'm gonna be out of town, and you know Carrie's in charge of the meeting, why would you notify me? I may not even get the email.
And everybody's like, where is this
Where, yeah,
person?
so. Budget committee shall carefully review all requests for budgets and all revenue estimates, and shall give consideration to the lawful requests for the ensuing fiscal year, and to review expenditure reports periodically pursuant to RSA 32. Attend annual and special town and school district meetings. Committee members may serve on citizen or other subcommittees at the request of the selectmen or school board, and as appointed by majority vote of the committee.
That's redundant.
Yep, from up above.
That was previously under,
Section 3.3.
So going back to D, is that mandatory?
Attend annual special town
It
meeting.
would count as an unexcused absence if you
You
didn't
can't make,
notify
you
anybody.
can't make it mandatory, it's,
Well, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
it says
I-
attend, so.
I think
If you're
That's
unfamiliar
key.
with the, like, you're unfamiliar with the position, you're like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be there. If you
Well-
can't make it, clearly you let people know.
well, look, but yeah, well, you can't make
can't
it,
make anything
you're right, you
mandatory.
can't make, so you could put strive to it. I mean, because.
I'm just asking,
Yeah,
it also says attend the annual meeting.
right. Well, you can't legally
Committee
make it
members-
mandatory, so,
I'm okay with it because it spells out what
Should attend.
the absences and what's excused and unexcused above, right? So,
Yeah,
and I just think it lays out a set of expectations.
yeah.
Okay, you can deliberate all you want, but if you don't go to the annual meetings,
I think you should put the budget hearing on that line too.
annual, special, and school district, and budget hearings.
as well as, yeah.
what actually is the definition of a bylaw?
That's a good question.
I just want to know what a bylaw has a definition, I'm just curious what it is. Just going to prove to everybody that I,
Well, they're gonna go to Wikipedia or whatever, but
I'm
it's
not
just,
the brightest guy.
I'm going to
I'll let them read the
dictionary.
He's
definition.
going straight to Webster. Or whoever does it anymore.
Did I mean blah? No. Didn't like the hyphen?
As a noun, a standing rule governing the regulation of a corporation or society's internal affairs.
Okay, what was that?
Couple more nine, yes.
Not very clear to
The
me.
bylaws serve as operating
Standing.
procedures for the committee. There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Operating procedures.
So then it can be redundant to the law because it's the operating.
Well, so what I was gonna say about the committee members may serve on other committees, the chairman, where it says previously, is the chairman, with the approval of the committee, appoint people. This is letting committee members know they may be,
Voluntarily serve.
they may serve, right.
Okay.
One is the chairman having to appoint them, and the other is that committee members may be members.
So then would you delete the other, because then, and as appointed by majority vote of the committee? Because if a committee member serves on a citizen subcommittee, and then it's an and as appointed by the majority, so then are they this kind of says that you have
I'd
to
roll
be
this into the other
approved.
section. I think it's redundant in two separate sections.
How is
The
it
other one is
redundant?
duties of the chair.
The spirit of what this says is exactly what we already talked about.
No, this is saying that as a committee member, I can serve on the capital planning
Yeah,
committee.
one is that the chair's chair has may have a duty to appoint, and this is saying committee members may serve.
But I think it comes tricky when you have the and.
It's a job responsibility as opposed to, like, you can expect if you're on the budget committee that you may serve on another committee.
Yeah, because it's not prohibiting you from still acting as a citizen within the town.
Well,
Right, so-
well, this, it says, may serve at the request of the selectmen of school board and as appointed.
So when the school board says who's interested in volunteering for this, you put your name in, they request you to do it, then you're like, okay, but then there's the and as appointed by the majority vote of the committee. So is that the majority vote of this committee? So if I volunteer to be on the capital planning committee, what is the
As a
and
citizen.
appoint, as a citizen, but there's an and there. Should you end the statement before the and, because the and implies both must be,
Well, I said put and or.
yeah.
But to your point, if the selectmen or the school board don't request you, according to this, you can't be on the committee.
That's my point. The point is, this committee here has no say what you do as a citizen.
Well, I think that's what's clarifying.
So the committee members may serve on citizens or other subcommittees,
Boom.
period.
Yep,
Period.
nice.
Committee members may serve, well,
Well, it's just saying that you're not excluded from participating still as a citizen outside of this meeting.
well, that's fine, but there's no way you could be excluded because the law, so
Right.
you're writing in the bylaws, the actual law, which means nobody here has the power to exclude you from, again, it's okay if you want to say it here, but it doesn't matter what it says. I mean, it could say here, the committee may exclude you from serving as a citizen on a committee, but you can't hold that.
So one thing that comes to my mind is, does part of this want to be that you may serve on a subcommittee representing the budget committee?
Well, that you can't do. You can't
Well,
represent,
that's part of the
Yes.
chair part.
without a vote,
Right,
correct.
right.
Because, right.
But again, this is letting people know, these are the things you may be required to do. You may be on a subcommittee or a committee, and you may also be representing the budget committee.
Correct, but that has to be a vote of this committee to represent, because any, outside of this, nobody has any power
Yeah, 'cause
as a
which
budget
is-
S
member.
says that you only have authority when acting as a board legally in session. Is
Unless
this-
authorization.
So, I mean, legal in
That's
session
law,
is
too.
tonight, right? So-
Right.
So if there's a meeting on Tuesday night, you can't legally act as a member of the board because we're not legally in session.
No, members shall act collectively as a body unless authorization is given a member to act as a representative, such as you are now a representative on XY subcommittee. So again, I go back to maybe get rid of at the request of the selectmen or school board and put, you may serve on citizen or subcommittees when appointed by majority vote of the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that just lets people know it's not just every Thursday night. There may be other, depending on the year, there may be other things required of you. All right. Conduct of meetings.
So before you move on,
Yep.
that's not the complete list. To Chris's point about the RSA.
All right, so what you got?
Okay.
I'm just saying, you could go through every section of the RSA and pull duties out.
Mm-hmm. And some communities had really long lists of duties, so.
Like forward copies of the budgets to the clerk. That's a budget committee responsibility.
Okay.
Technically, it falls on the chair, you could argue it goes in the
Mhm.
chair responsibility. I'm just saying, to Chris's point, are these the 7 most important things that we're worried about having the members know about? Or are there 5 other things inside of there we should include or should supersede something? I don't know the answer to the question, I'm just
Well-
saying there's pages upon pages of duties.
Well, and that's why I was hoping if people were able to look at what other communities, chose to go with long lists, some lists, this list, less than this list. What was important to us, the people in this room now?
What was pulled in originally are the key areas of the duties that I felt relevant, right? If there are others, so be it.
And I felt that the important thing to have in this would be the things that have and may continue to and might possibly cause some disagreement. So we can look at what issues going back, and one is the vote, zero, what a vote means, if it's a negative vote, appointing, a few things that seem to just always come up, and you address that with bylaws. So my thing is, if you were going to do responsibilities and duties, go and pull it all in, or if you just want to pick out a handful of them, then I would say, are we having, are we having a problem with that? So do we need to put that in here and exclude the 5 other things that Dennis has up on the screen right now? And then why did we just pull that out? Because we've never had a problem with that.
Again, right, if we're going to link to the RSA itself, and we can do that right on the front page, right, they'll have all the supplemental material there, right, and this is meant not to be a 20, 30-page document.
And also just state this is the this is only a portion of the responsibilities of this is.
Yeah.
So you're still pointing people to the RSA,
And
right?
we can do that right here,
But
right in
I
front.
think it's very
This is a portion of
helpful
the chair's responsibility.
to the average citizen who's wondering what is,
What exactly does my budget committee do?
yeah.
Nowhere do we say we actually prepare a budget now. Is that not the number one priority of the committee?
It says we review
Well, you don't
budgets.
It says we
You don't-
review.
Right, you don't
Prepare the
prepare it.
budget.
No, we do by law.
Yeah, we prepare the
Well,
budget.
we review the budgets that are provided to the committee.
No.
Well, I guess you actually do, because once the budget's given to you, it's your budget.
Yeah, we
Budget.
prepare the budget. Oh, yeah, we prepare the
This is that
budget.
whole conversation,
Right.
goes spins wheels.
The law says that we'll prepare it and send it to the clerk.
I know it's the way we say it sounds confusing. No, we prepare the budget.
Just ask them, I'm sure you get.
But isn't that covered in option C when it says, shall give consideration to all lawful requests for ensuring blah, 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 blah pursuant to RSA 32? So isn't the rest of that kind of included in there?
Yeah, I wouldn't read it that way.
So.
That just means we'll listen to you if you think you want to add something, there's a reason why you want to spend this money in the budget.
So do you want to put in there saying that they shall review the proposed budgets, come prepared for meetings, ask questions, and then vote?
Well, that was my point, but to my, when I
You're
looked,
right,
I'm
it's
like, you
not
don't
here.
have the most important thing we're supposed to do as a committee. Because I remember sitting on the committee, or sitting in the audience, when it was going to be a 4-4 tie. And the budget committee would not have put forward a budget. Which then it falls back to the legislative body, in that case, it would have been the school board, to put forth their budget, because the budget committee couldn't decide.
So what wording would you suggest? Would you add that to C?
I would.
That would probably
I
be a
would-
separate bullet.
I would add it as A.
Yeah.
It's like the most important thing we're supposed to do.
You make a good point. And do you have wording that you pulled from somewhere?
It's just odd that no other bylaws
You
at all
know,
had that.
I'm like, how did we miss that?
I don't know. I mean, so the RSA, which gets into default budget, which I don't think you necessarily want to do, you could say to prepare the budget as provided in RSA 32.5. And you're done. Because technically, in December, the school board could say to Frank, you're not going to put the budget together. Or the selectman could say to the town administrator, you're not going to put the budget together, it's the budget committee's job. And then the budget
It's a
committee would
good
have to
point.
fill out the paperwork to send to the state.
That would be easy.
I'm not saying it's not easy, I'm just saying, there are some towns where, once the budget committee gets into the process, the selectmen or the school board are out of it, and the budget committee does all the mechanical work and fills out the paperwork.
I've done that some years.
Yeah.
All right, so what did you say, to prepare the budget as?
Provided in RSA 32.5.
And that becomes number one.
I mean, we could argue about,
What that means.
to conduct public hearings, that might be another one. There's any number of these that you might want to drag in, I don't know, but I'm not trying
Yeah.
to belabor the point.
Public hearings is, what is it now? Chapter 6.
Committee members should attend annual special school district meetings and budget hearings. I mean, if there are more things we want to add, then
Well, if it's intended
That's
to
fine.
be a helpful document to the average citizen who is either interested in running for the Budget Committee or wants to know what the Budget Committee is doing, Carrie, you stated something about carefully reviewing, beforehand. I think that that's worthwhile of including.
the Budget Committee shall carefully review all requests for budgets and all revenue estimates, and shall give consideration to lawful requests for ensuing fiscal year, and review expenditure reports periodically pursuant to RSA 32. Again, because I think there are towns who look at the submitted budget of the town or the school and just throw it out the window and do their own thing. And I think this says that in Litchfield, we want to review what our officials have presented and give careful consideration to what and why.
Right, and those towns, if anybody did think that, they're clearly shirking their legal, moral, ethical, and fiduciary responsibility if they just threw it out and did their own. So, because it does clearly say in the RSA too. So, but also, I want to ask a question, because now I get back to the mission, was this document intended to be a helpful guide to people that were looking to possibly run as a budget committee member, or was this document here to help clarify some issues that the existing sitting budget committee? Well,
The answer is yes.
it could do both. It could cover a whole, but then I was wrong then, or I was misunderstood, because I thought this document, when we decided to create it, that we were going to, it was the purpose of to help clarify some issues before they got blown up or at the time when we were. So I thought that was the sole mission of it.
That's true, too.
If it has expanded now to be a helpful document to people that are planning to possibly run for the budget committee in the future, or to help clarify or put in a little basket what some might consider a lot more words in the RSA, then that's fine too. Then if that was the case, I think we would need to add more to it, because, I mean, not a hell of a lot more, but I think we're missing some valuable points if you go through the RSA to cover those needs of, number one, people looking to run for the budget committee and help them, and to also clarify some other vague things in the RSA. I don't think we need to triple this document, but I think we actually need to add a little bit more, because just as Dennis just pointed out, we cherry-picked a few things out of it. So if that's the case, we need to make this document a little bit longer. We don't have to go overboard.
Then why don't you take a look at the RSA?
Well, I'd rather not, because I personally, no, I tell you
You're
what.
killing me.
I don't think that document, I think the document should actually be shortened to just handle little issues. But I'm saying, if we're doing it, we're leaving some stuff out.
But did you read
And Dennis brought up one, because he says nowhere in here did it even say anything about our core duties. It's not in here.
And I do like the one that Dennis mentioned about the submitting it to, the final budget has to be submitted to the clerk. I've been on top of, like, making sure we get signatures and making sure it's ready. But you know what? I didn't know that before I got to be chair. Don't ask me how I never realized that anybody else did it. So that was one thing. I like that, because I didn't realize that was required of me. And I think it's a good thing to know.
So some of those things we need to add in here. And what I just said, we don't have to double this document, but there's a few more key things we do need to add in there. I could think of some off the top of my head.
And who's going to help us identify those?
Well, that's what we need to.
We're all doing it now.
Yeah.
They sent links, these are very closely.
If that was the case, I would like to have a copy of the RSA. I didn't print one out, and I could go through it, because I've read that, the whole budget RSA front and back 50 times. But if I had it in front of me, I could pick out a couple things that I think would be important in here. One would be core duties, the main reason why
Well,
we
he's saying he
exist.
wants to add it, but he's saying he doesn't want to do the work to add it. So, I mean,
well,
it's a catch-22.
Well, you understand why
All
I'm
right,
saying it. I'm saying it to achieve the
So
mission of the
tonight-
document we need.
Tonight, we're having these good discussions, we're gonna put together another draft, and when it goes out, things that are missing, put them in.
You
You know,
can write them in the margins.
So we've now discovered there are more important duties we should add in here. Let's do that, okay?
For example, I'll say some right now. I think we should have somewhere in here that we need to invite and make available and actively ask the department heads to come in, is one thing. I think that's important.
Well, you could say you could
Encourage, well, do whatever we can within the law.
No, there's no encouragement. They will show up.
Right, that's right, and we can't,
They can say that they don't want to
right.
bring them in, though. We've had
So,
a discussion.
I think that's
So if we
important.
encourage encourage them to bring
And
Not under the law,
that's
they
a
can't
core
say
thing.
no.
I think another thing, this is a true bylaw, because the RSA doesn't cover it. I like that we don't discuss and vote on the same day. So I'd like to see in there, as our bylaw, because that's truly a bylaw, that you discuss something one day.
Didn't
and
they
you-
add that?
And you voted on another day, even if it's the next day, but it can't be on the same day.
I honestly, we haven't gotten there yet, but I know some other communities did have that spelled out, that you will receive by this date and vote on another date, but I honestly don't.
Now, I want people to be clear what I'm saying.
Voting
Like
procedure.
the thing with the actively encouraging or asking or inviting department heads in here, I don't truly believe it needs to be in this document. It's never been, we've never disagreed on that. We've all always agreed on that.
So that again, you,
Where you invite department heads in
Oh.
and you actively encourage and ask them and almost demand it without demanding, you know what I mean? I think that's a good, but we've never disagreed. So I didn't think that should be in a bylaw, because we never had an argument with that. Everybody in this committee always agreed, but if we're making it the document, I think then it should be in there.
and I agree, because what we're trying to do is avoid a crisis. We're trying to be proactive, so I agree.
Then
That's
we
a good
need to
thing to put in
then
there.
we need to make this a little bit longer. I did not come prepared for that. I came prepared looking at this saying there's too much in it, and I think there's some redundancy. Now that I know the mission is different, and it's to serve other reasons than just simple bylaws, then I need a little more time, and I'll go through the RSAs, and I'll come back with some suggestions. If the mission truly is to help future budget committee members and to help clear up some vagueness in the RSAs.
Yep.
So then we keep all of this, and we gotta add some to it.
Okay, and I do like the department heads, and I can look up wording for that, and I do like, and again, I thought it was in here, but I do remember seeing it in some other,
Yeah. I thought I added
towns, but
that.
it's not in here.
Okay.
I don't see it, but.
We could just say, we'll do whatever we want. Shorten,
Yeah, well,
really shorten the document.
No. All right, conduct of meetings. Budget Committee generally meets on the fourth Thursday of the month at 7 PM. Schedule of meeting dates and budget deliberation dates through annual town and school district meetings shall be developed and approved by majority vote of the members present by the May meeting. Business of the regular meeting may include, but not limited to, the following. This is just, again, everybody put this in here. And so this is adjusted for what we generally have in there.
Want to get Pledge of Allegiance in there. It's not, can I tell you something? Up until 3 years or 4 years,
Right.
we never did the Pledge of Allegiance.
Really?
And-
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago, because I came to the meeting one day, and I said, how come we don't do the Pledge of Allegiance? And that was, from that point on, we started doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
It used to be, I think only the
We never did it.
selectmen did.
Yeah.
The school board never used to either.
We never did it in this meeting. I went through 2 years here, we never said it once.
Yep, that's fine. Special meetings shall be held at the call of chairman or at the request of any two members. All members shall be informed of all matters to be discussed at special meetings. Matters other than those specified can be acted upon only if all members are present.
I'm pretty sure the meeting law actually says can only be acted on if the members agree.
Yeah, because
Or
I don't
vote
like if
to
all
do that.
members are present.
Because part of that
Never
goes
heard
back
of
to
it.
the meeting notification. The meeting
Mhm.
notification will say, we're calling a special meeting to consider, whatever topic, and then that's all you're supposed to consider, because there were groups that were calling a special meeting, dealing with that, and then
Mhm.
dealing with other things they didn't want to necessarily do in front of the public, so.
So can
But
we,
RSA, or, as you, maybe we reference RSA 91 there, because I think 91 is the one that,
That's right to know.
all members shall be informed of all matters to be
Doesn't mean-
discussed at special meetings. Matters other than those specified can be acted upon only if all attending members agree.
yes, I'm pretty sure that's what 91 says.
Public hearings. The recommended budget shall be set by a majority vote of the committee and shall be subject to public hearing rules set forth in RSA 32 and as amended from time to time. So this kind of talks, it's
Budget.
funny, conduct of meeting. So this is basically where we set the budget.
Yep.
At all public hearings, the chairman shall assure that the majority view is first stated. After the majority view is stated, any member may express the views of the minority. Annual and special town and school district meetings, the chair shall announce each budget request and the committee's recommendation, explain the basis for such recommendation and the results of the vote taken for such recommendation. In the case of a tied vote, the article shall have the wording neither recommended nor not recommended by the Budget Committee applied to the article. So that's an issue we've had in the past. So that spells out what now, we don't have to argue at annual meeting what the right wording is.
Now, is that subjective to the Board of Selectmen or school board's desire to how it should be printed? Okay, so-
No, because the budget committee, the budget hearing is a presentation of the budget committee.
This is also annual and special town and school district meetings. So this is
Reference the ballot.
this is what goes on the ballot. That is how the wording is. A 4-4 tie does not recommend, it's not recommended, it's neither a recommendation nor not recommended. The chairman shall assure that the majority view is first stated. After the majority view is stated, any member may express the views of the minority. And again, this 3 now is another thing we had issues with in the past. Any adjustments made to dollar amounts voted at deliberative session will require that Budget Committee reconvene for a special meeting at the call of the chair to vote on the adjusted items prior to posting the Budget Committee budget on the official town ballot. If no dollar adjustments have been made, the Budget Committee cannot revote warrant articles. So that spells out an issue we've had in the past.
So I had a question on that. What about language that changes?
Language of what, I'm sorry?
Just language that changes. So I know there's been warrant articles that have changed to say, instead of saying a specific amount, you use a not to exceed or not to be less than, which somebody may want to reconsider their vote if that language relating to the monetary amount changes.
That's true. It's on a warrant article that has a
Dollar figure.
dollar figure.
So with financial impact?
If it's anything financially impacting, the Budget Committee would vote on it. If it doesn't have financial impact, just the spirit of the warrant, we're not voting on it anyway.
Correct.
So if the Budget Committee's already voted on it, then that's game for revote.
I see the point, though, if there was a budget impact and we voted on it, but language was changed that doesn't affect the dollar amount, is the question.
Yeah.
So I think, being that the dollar amount doesn't change, we don't have a right to revote.
But if
the language
the
changes.
wording changes to not to exceed, doesn't that change the
Well, you're right,
financial
that
impact?
does, but that, by definition, changed the dollar amount, correct. So if it used to be $50,000, but then it's not to exceed $50,000, it does, in theory, change the dollar amount, so the wording does change the dollar amount.
No, it doesn't.
Why not legally?
No, it doesn't.
Still
Because you're
$50,000.
still
Yeah.
appropriating 50, it's just what happens to whatever's left over.
I mean,
So really all you're bickering.
Well, in theory, it could, because what if it's only $25,000?
Then the question
But that's fine, it's no different than that building survey, like you were saying in the beginning, right? The numbers are all over the place.
Yeah.
So we have $40,000 to do it. We spent $35,000, we're still in the ballpark.
No, because it's already voted, it's in, you got it, you could spend less. I'm talking, this is just a recommendation of the warrant, which is different, so I agree, once it's voted in, right, it's,
No, but
It's out
so
of-
if we had changed the words on that warrant article,
yeah.
not to exceed 40,000, where we're only seeking 40,000, it's the same thing.
Well, no, correct.
Actually, it's by law, so you know what, I need to
Yeah, what does
check
the
on
law
that.
state? Because otherwise
But-
you could say,
but-
just scratch it, any change to it.
But correct, but in most cases, because, let's assume it was 40,000 was the warrant, we all voted, we said yes, which I think everybody, let's use that example, everybody voted yes. If at deliberative, somebody changed it to not to exceed, I'm thinking everybody here, although you have the right to vote, would say, yes, it's the same thing, because somebody might say, well, no, what if it's only 25,000? No, I want to spend 40,000, so I'm going to say no. I mean, so if you got to think about the logic end of it, it's not changing anything, it's not changing what's on the ballot, other than somebody might decide, hey, I want to vote no now, because I don't want to only spend 25,000, I want to spend the whole 40, so I'm changing. You know, the point is I'm making, it'll never happen. But what I'm thinking is the law,
Yeah.
whatever the law says. And I think the law says if the wording changes the monetary in any way, you have a right to revote your recommendation, not the warrant. You can't do that legally.
Yeah, we'll have to check
So
on
I
that.
guess that one you gotta
because,
find out.
I know, it is pretty specific.
Yes.
Because there was one issue, and we went round and round until we got legal clarification. The Budget Committee had a change of heart and wanted to vote on something. They did revote. Turns out they weren't allowed to.
Which one was that? Do you remember? I forgot.
do
I
not
remember the
remember.
incident. I can't remember which one
Do
though.
not remember.
I can't remember which one. I mean, I know, I remember it happened. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up, but that, I've just made a little note to look into what happens if the words change, but not dollar amount. I don't know.
So in that instance, we should make a motion to change it by $1.
Well, we've done that. People have gotten up on the stage and made a motion to change something by $1 just so it could be revoted. I mean, that's normal. People do that. I mean, we've seen that almost every year,
Well, then that
haven't
would
we?
indicate that wording would be not.
Yeah, so let's do a little research and I'll get back to you. Quorum, a majority shall constitute a quorum for transaction of business, including appointed members from town or school district. Because that wasn't clear to me, that we count our school and town members as part of the quorum. In the absence of the chairman or vice chair, a majority of those present shall elect a temporary for that meeting.
So it gets back to the whole deputy tax concept.
Yeah. Voting procedure,
Should it have the same wording?
Sure.
shall elect a deputy for that meeting.
Works for me.
Okay. The chair will state and put to vote all questions which are regularly called or necessarily arise in the course of the proceedings and announce the result of the vote. Votes shall be taken after discussion has reached a conclusion or a motion is made to call the question.
So my question is, don't we need to vote on that motion?
To call a question, or to.
I think you do.
You know what? I did look that up. When, it seems, I think when we have annual meeting, when someone calls the question, I don't think there's a vote.
No, there's a second and then there's a vote.
Okay.
I'm
Because that's what I was thinking. I'm
95%
like, I
sure.
think you have to vote on that.
Because
Okay.
he always, and he won't let you make a statement and then call the question
Mhm.
as well. That's the moderator's rule, but yes.
So call the
Makes
question
sense,
and
because
voted
now
on.
You can't rebut me,
Yeah.
calling the question.
Voting shall be by voice vote. At the request of any member, the committee shall be polled and the votes of individuals recorded. The vote of any member present shall not be disallowed. Proxy or telephone votes will not be allowed.
Does the law say that if somebody is out of state and they call in and they're talking and so I don't think you could exclude that.
That's in 91, and we can't say that you can't vote by telephone.
You're right. You know what, because these are people, these are copied from people who did this in, what did I say, 1992
If the
or
law
something?
changed in
So what is
whatever.
the law now?
The law says that you can be put in electronically.
Right.
By phone or by Skype or whatever
Yeah,
you want to do.
let's say if you're
You have to
disabled
participate-
or
you
you.
have to participate in the meeting, though.
Right.
Yes, yes.
You know, if you're in the
It's possible to make a
hospital.
vote and then
yeah.
decide.
I remember a board of selectmen meeting where John Brunel did that, right?
Yeah.
He was on
Yeah,
like
he
a
did do that.
iPad or
Yes, I
something.
remember
Yeah.
that.
So,
We did it on the school board a couple of times.
I don't think you can do it by proxy, though.
No, you can't go by, I'm just
No.
saying the
Okay.
telephone
Right.
piece. And
Proxy
that just shows you
votes.
how antiquated it is,
Right.
you know.
The only question is, there's no telephone in here, but.
Well, so
Bring one in.
Michelle can tell you, we brought a phone in and
Yes, we have.
plugged it in somewhere over there.
Plugged it into that room.
Yeah.
Did you say electronic vote?
No, that
Just
by
telephone.
electronic means, you can be in the meeting by electronic means and vote.
Okay.
Put the monitor over there with Skype.
So, proxy votes will not be allowed.
FaceTime.
The chair is not relieved of the responsibility to vote on every question before the committee and should not vote or abstain on each, and should vote or abstain on each motion. There are communities that
The chair doesn't vote.
the chair doesn't vote.
Really?
I'd change should to shall. Not that Cindy would ever shy away from a vote.
I don't know how.
I don't care. Should or shall, it doesn't matter to me.
Shall, that way you have to vote.
Votes shall be recorded in the minutes of the meeting as number for, number against, number abstaining. Roll call votes shall be recorded in the minutes of the meeting as yes followed by members' names, no followed by members' names, and abstain followed by members' names. Role of the chair to enforce on all occasions the observance of order and decorum among the members, deciding questions of order subject to appeal by 2 members unless the chair prefers to submit the question for decision to the committee. Open the meeting at the prescribed time by a call to order. Recognize members and/or meeting attendees, entitling said members and attendees to the floor. Once recognized by the chair, a member may speak, and with few exceptions, no member or meeting attendee should interrupt. Debate will be allowed so long as the matter discussed is germane to the question being debated. Motions will be recognized by the chair and called for a second. A second to a motion must be received before the chair may entertain discussion and vote. Should no second be received, the motion will be considered to have died for lack of a second and so recorded. Any member of the committee at any time in the budget deliberation process can request additional information. All requests for additional information must go through the chair.
So my question is, why isn't this under duties of the chair?
Because this pertains to voting. No, yeah, why wait a minute. So this is the role of the chair during the conduct of meetings. Where the role of the chair,
Duties of officers under the chairman.
or the duties of officers,
Those
I
all
think
seem
is
like-
broader.
So is it because it pertains to meetings, conduct of meetings specifically, and the chair's
That's-
role in conduct of meetings?
That's what I think, this is during conduct of meetings, this is how the chair will act and the responsibilities during a meeting, how you conduct yourself during a meeting. Where I think the duties of officers is just an overview of the chair signs documents, the chair schedules meetings. It's more of a broader set of responsibilities.
I mean, chairman shall preside, so that covers most of all that stuff.
And I think a lot of these just spell out things we already do, but again, just kind of formalizing it.
And that's fine, I was just thinking you could put it all under the chair and all the duties are listed in one spot.
I think it's nice to have.
Either way.
Within the meeting, this is what you can expect.
Yeah, I mean, I see both points, but I do think just the first one is just
That's fine.
sort of a broad.
I'm just asking the question.
Hey, a lot of it falls under when it says the chairman shall preside, and this is now defining
And now
what
we're-
presiding looks like.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. These bylaws shall be known as the Municipal Budget Committee bylaws of the town of Litchfield. These bylaws shall become effective after adoption by majority vote of the Budget Committee at a regularly scheduled meeting. These bylaws, so this is where, originally it was shall, when Andrew did it. And in thinking back to shall, I changed it to may, but now I'm not sure that may is appropriate.
I would say shall.
I think shall is more
That way,
appropriate.
each budget committee owns it.
Understands, right, and has a discussion and understands it.
Even if they just adopt the previous one, it is now their bylaws.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of that attestation that committee members are reviewing it and refreshing themselves.
So how do you define year?
That's for May 3rd, each year.
Is it the year of that term of the budget committee, or is it from January 1st? So,
I think each year is pretty clear.
Well, it's a
By
staggered-
May 30th each year.
so you could do this on a meeting in January, and new members come in and say, nope, we've already voted.
It's a different
but-
budget
So
committee.
would you limit being able to update the bylaws to only one time per year? Like, what if we had some sort of,
This,
On an annual basis.
on an annual basis, means once a year.
Just put once a
The-
year,
the i-
after a new budget committee
The
is
idea
elected.
with this, right, is that, again, it's the attestation that we are reviewing it, because I can perceive the scenario where we create this and nobody looks at it.
Well, so that was the thrust of my question was, I think where it's appropriate is from election to May 30th.
Yeah.
New members come on, they're forced to read it and acknowledge it at the budget committee meeting.
Between March
So
15th
why don't you just put down the-
and
After
the
annual
first
meeting. After annual meeting.
Yeah, That's fine.
These bylaws shall be reviewed and amended on an annual basis after annual meeting on or before May 30th each year.
Yeah, that's great.
So this
That
is,
prohibits us from amending the bylaws during any other time period.
And that was my point on including the RSA. If it changes in June,
Hold on, an amendment to these bylaws must be moved at one budget committee meeting and shall not be voted upon until the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Well, it just say you shall review it at least once a year.
Right, so, and then the next bullet down is the
At
amendment
least.
part of this.
these
Well,
bylaws
separate
shall be
votes stand
reviewed
alone.
and amended at
lawyer will
least.
tell you that a separate vote stands alone unless there's I'm sorry, I have way too much experience.
Well, yeah, when you get struck down.
Well, that's the thing, once you start wordsmithing, you realize, and when you've done this a while, you realize how important some silly little word is.
Yeah.
So this is where we were saying that we thought there was something is moved at one meeting and voted
Yeah.
on at the next. This is the only place it is, but I agree, it does need to be
Yeah.
in the other part of it.
So this, it stands alone, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
D
this,
stands alone.
this,
Okay, got it.
this, yes.
Well, assuming we all agree on that, because there's been members in the past that didn't agree. They, they say it's okay to, hear something and vote on the same day, which is fine. Other members says, no, we want to, digest it. So I'd like that to be part of it, because I would personally like to,
I like to digest.
same with me. So that's I think, an important bylaw.
I agree.
Too, it's good to the expectation, and when somebody comes in later and says, well, I presented this, I'm like, sorry, our bylaws state, it also keeps you off the hook on some of those. If you're feeling pressured to respond immediately, like, I don't have to.
Well, and what happens if an RSA changes during the year?
That was my point.
Yes.
Well,
And
That's why we said at least one.
At least on an annual basis, so that opens it up to do it more often if need be.
Yeah, because if you have an annual, it implies only once.
So I'm fully in agreement with getting it one meeting and voting the next, but I believe extenuating circumstances will sometimes make that
Well, if it's an
impossible.
emergency situation.
So but that says we can't do it, so I think we should say, have some qualifier that says, unless a majority of the committee votes
You're right, because
To
when
do
we
that.
get the
warrant articles.
cemetery fund and there's one item on it, and it's like, hey, guys, you want to finalize it tonight? We can choose to do that.
Or a warrant article that comes late.
But right now, you should provide a mechanism, regardless of what
To override.
regardless of what the reasoning would be, there should be a mechanism to address it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a mechanism. At the end, you say, everything in here is our bylaws unless we decide to do something different. I mean, but hold on.
The school board has that policy.
Hold on. Now, this is where a little sarcasm is going to come out. Isn't that government in general? Seriously? I mean, I've spoke at it at the budget, at the Board of Selectmen meetings. I've spoken about it at school board meetings in the past. It's like, there's the rules, and these guys all have to abide by them unless they choose to not to abide by them. So that's there anyway. And in government,
you have it.
and, well, you always reserve the right to,
Exactly, but we didn't reserve the right.
you're following the rules unless you decide at this moment you're not going to. So if you need to write it in there, you know it's gonna happen anyway, so, because it's government, but if you need to write it in there, just say it. Say,
Yeah.
these are our bylaws, and we're gonna follow them unless something happens and we choose to ignore them. I know it's not, anybody watching this.
I know what you're saying.
Welcome to the world of government, but that's the way it is. Put it in there, and that solves all the problems. But you know what it does? It holds people accountable,
It
because
does.
the one person that says, well, I don't want to do it that way, then you could always point, well, what about this? Now explain to me why you're not going to do it that way.
It is an accountability mechanism.
Bingo.
We can change, and then people are going to go, why did you change? Or members at this table can say,
Right.
no, that's not the right change.
Because everything in every rule in every government book depends just upon the character, the ethics, everything about the people that make up the group. So these are helpful. I agree with them. We should have them. But all it does is it kind of keeps us on the same track, and if something deviates, you need to explain why. That's all it is, and it's an accountability thing. It's a peer pressure thing.
Yep.
So just put that in there. Instead of putting in every little thing an out clause, just put it at the end. One big out clause.
Let's do section 8 that says like exceptions, and say any deviation from the bylaws must be agreed to and voted on by a majority of the
Okay,
committee.
good.
Something like that.
And there's your one out clause, and it saves a lot of trouble.
Would that be conducted meetings?
I would just put it as section 8, because it's not necessarily
It's gonna be
having to
just
do with the
meeting.
meeting, it might be something outside of the meeting.
You're basically saying he has a whole bunch of bylaws, but they don't really mean anything.
Well, it's very analogous to the school board policy that says the school
Right.
board is not responsible if they decide not to change,
Right.
follow policy. Which
mean,
I always
it-
thought was
It's something we
a
all,
great statement to have.
it's something we all know is the truth, so we shouldn't feel squishy putting it down in writing, because it exists
You
anyway.
want it there as an out, you still want to follow the guidelines,
Well-
but there's a need sometimes for an
But you
out.
don't need the guidelines to follow the guidelines. The people in the room choose to do the right thing and follow the guidelines. So,
And for the purpose of those who are overly rule followers, it helps the majority.
right, it's a justification to people that need a rationale to do things.
You gotta
And-
convince 5 people
Right.
that it's the right thing.
That make them, sometimes people need those things to make them feel better, to make the rule.
Well, it has to be active
So-
by 10, so.
I just, this is a good, there's a couple things, I'm gonna go through the RSAs,
Yes.
because there's a couple key things, and I think I brought up a few of them tonight. Maybe a couple more sentences after I go through, I'm gonna present next time.
Okay, send it to me, because what I'm gonna try to do is make the changes we talked about tonight. If, I will get it out, and then, yeah, if there's things I missed that we talked about tonight, or things you've now thought of in the meantime, because this has been a good, way to generate some more consideration. Look back at the other communities, and see if there's anything in there that now maybe you can see in a different light, and you think, maybe that is important to put in here, and let's come back at the next meeting with a brand-new draft to take a look at.
Piggyback on this, my first year that I was on the board, I asked the board, I requested that we spend a little time, and it took 1 hour. They all agreed to go over the RSAs. So the following meeting, we came in, we all had a copy of the RSA. And it only took 1 hour, went through everyone, synopsis, okay, this is RSA, read it, boom, what does that mean? And this is what it means, and it was cut and dry, and we went through it. Because I do hear a lot, it's like, RSAs, what are they? Where do I find them, what are they? Well, they're easy to find, they are vague, but every government rule is written with intended vagueness in it. That's not a criticism either, they're written vague, so the people that are trying to govern could fine tune it, and that's kind of what we're doing here. But I think it's important on some of them, because some people might not know some of the RSAs. They might not have a clue. So if we could take maybe less than an hour, 40 minutes, and just each have a copy of the RSAs, there's not that many of them. It's a short document.
So could we just do it electronically, right? So we send them all out and we all review them and see if there's any discussion, rather than reading each RSA, and that
You
seems.
mean the municipal budget law,
Yeah.
chapter 32?
Why would you send me the book?
Yeah, we can just send out a link.
We're gonna add the link
Yeah.
right to the front page
Well,
of
a
this
link, I mean,
document.
I don't know, that's electronic. Mine will be on a piece of paper, but
Right, we're gonna click it.
Whatever you're saying.
Maybe we as a committee can commit to refreshing ourselves with what the
Right.
RSA says in preparation for the next
Right.
meeting.
yeah, so
We're good to
that's,
go.
I mean, everybody, I guess everybody in this room should know what all the RSAs are, as it pertains, not the volume,
Not
just
have
as
it
it
memorized,
pertains
but-
to the municipal budget committee, which is actually very short. It's not long.
I don't know, I think it's pretty long.
Oh, gosh, if you go,
So, Chris, are you volunteering to go
26
together
sections.
For 26 sections.
yeah, if you go through all the RSAs, I
5
mean,
is
it's,
really big.
Oh, good
Sorry,
lord.
Chris. Yeah, sorry.
I didn't think, as it pertains to the budget committee, right?
Yeah, that's,
Right, it's not that long.
Small print and very close together.
All right.
so can I have a go back? The statement about recommended and not recommended by the budget committee? The law says you have to put the numerical vote.
Yes.
Well, when I read that, that doesn't imply that you're gonna put 4-4.
I think it's in
or
addition to.
3-3. I, just so it's clear,
Page
and that's
5, bottom.
okay.
No, we have decided that, the article should have the wording. Okay, that doesn't exclude, though, that,
I'm just saying, we have to include the numerical, no matter what.
yes, well, that's a requirement, because that's what the town
I
voted on.
just wanted to be
This is
clear that
just-
we weren't,
This is meant to clarify
The
the
wording.
discussions that we've had as a committee before as to how it will be worded on.
I remember one said not recommended because
Right.
of the tie vote.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is the wording when there is a tie vote. That doesn't mean the numbers don't go on it,
That's
because
right.
that's a different,
Okay.
that's already approved.
I'm good, that was my only.
You know, we have in here responsibilities of a budget committee member, because you must show up at the meeting, right? You must,
Be prepared.
Be prepared, not
nice.
interrupt.
Yeah.
No, we got a little leeway in the interrupting part, right? But in any case, shouldn't 1B have a general understanding of the municipal budget law? I mean, seriously, I mean, some people might think I sound like a wise guy, but shouldn't one of the requirements be you have at least read it?
I think if we didn't put it in here, that was part of some of the other communities' drafts.
It should be in there. I mean, maybe not before you get elected, but once you get elected, I mean.
Well, that's the attestation. You're doing an annual review on a minimum.
Well, an annual review of what?
Of the bylaws,
Of the
he's
bylaws.
saying,
I'm saying of the actual municipal budget
Oh,
law,
the
what we're
RSAs.
all governed by, which
Of the RSAs,
we need
so.
we need to know what that is to do our job.
Well, I
This
guess
would be a synopsis.
But I
of it.
guess if you're including the link in the document itself, then
Right.
by default, you're not only
I'm
attesting.
kind of with Chris, I think there should be one that says, review and understand, New Hampshire
know.
municipal budget law, RSA 32.
Right.
I agree, and I think it was
and
in some of the
understand
other.
would be a-
Well, I said review and understand.
Well, but in all fairness,
come with questions.
I gotta say, the first year I was on here, I had some questions, because I did read it, and it was very, because I said, I need to know what the responsibilities are, and I read it, and I came to the board and I said, look, I have some questions. I says, could we all go through it, and while we're going through it, I'm gonna ask some questions. At the end of that hour, what I didn't know, I understood fully, and then I kept rereading it, and I mean, there's still stuff I'm probably learning about it, but I feel I have a good grasp. So I think that, I mean, if we have a responsibility, you should show up, and you should be prepared, and you should not interrupt, and you should, I mean, basically what we're saying is you should read the budget. We get a binder, well, I get a binder, everybody else gets a computer. I get a binder that thick, so we're supposed to read that, right? So shouldn't we just read?
And that's why, go
RSA?
through the other communities, because I know that was in somebody else's, so that is a good thing.
I just made it, so it's
Yep.
in there. We should have, read and understand the municipal budget RSA.
I think the words are familiarize yourself
Right.
with the,
Because sometimes those things take,
So you know what,
take a while for you to
You
understand.
know why? Because now you're
Alright.
gonna have to go home and read it
Oh.
for the first time.
all right, I want to get on to the next item, which is, again, going back to the budget calendar. We've talked a little bit about the town, the school, what that's going to look like. So here's the issue that I discovered. The calendar has come out with all of the dates that you have to do this, that, and the other thing, and notice this by, and notice that by. So that makes our budget a little tighter, because we have, let me find it.
Oh, is the February 11th too far out?
Well, we have our final votes on January 3rd and January 5th, and by reading the RSAs, we need to have at least our hearing for the school district, and we lump both together by Tuesday, the 10th. And just in case there's an issue with the weather or whatever, then safety says it should be the 9th with the 10th as your fallback. So that really tightens up. If you're making your final votes on the 3rd and the 5th, and you know how, when we get close to the wire, we're not always ready to make those final votes. We have additional questions or additional information comes in. I was wondering about pushing it back, our final votes back to either now we don't meet the week between Christmas and New Year's. So either, especially if the school district doesn't meet all 6 days, well, the 22nd is a regular meeting. If doing it either the week of the 20th and the 20th and the 22nd, or the 27th and the 29th, do our final votes, so that if something comes up, we still have that week.
I could tell you, I won't be here the week of.
So that's my concern, is because we did not have this down,
Well, we
people would
could, we
be
could
gone the week
potentially
of
do them
Christmas.
on the 15th,
On what?
December 15th.
Is it any later than
13th and
March?
15th?
Last year, this is
What's that?
similar
Or
to where we
13th and
were.
15th?
Did they change the
Yeah.
guidelines?
So, here's what's interesting. Only, and this is where the school district calendar is much clearer. The municipal association's calendar only tells you the last date you can have a hearing. And I don't think we probably met those last year. Because when you read someplace else, and only one other place does it say 25 days before the first session of the annual meeting. So I think what we did last year is we've said, oh, the last date to hold a hearing, and we chose that we didn't choose that date, but we chose around that date. Instead, it should be 25 days before your first session. And this year, it's the school. So that's why, now that I realize that, it backs us up a lot tighter than we have been in the past.
Is it Saturday the 7th?
But the RSA says the budget hearings will be on or before the third Tuesday in January. And you're saying
On
the
or
deliberative
before.
date?
And if you look at 40.13,
That's what I'm looking at.
it says 25 days before, the hearing shall be held 25 days before annual meeting. 40.13, section 2AC. Because I was looking them up this afternoon. And it says 25 days. So if you count from February 4th and go back 25 days, that brings you to the 10th. And that's what I don't like about this calendar. It doesn't tell you the first day you should have it. It only tells you the last day you can legally have it.
In my opinion, I think it's a moot point. I think we as a committee will probably be prepared for final votes on the 15th of December.
What's wrong with meeting going to the 22nd?
I think.
Yeah. But I mean, if you need to, why couldn't you go to the 22nd?
We could.
Well, and that's what I want. If the week of Christmas and New Year's doesn't work, I'm fine with that, because we do have the week before Christmas. I mean, last year we were able to take it off and not meet, but, we should be ready.
And, in years past, we've also met on Tuesdays in December.
But and that's what this would be. This would be a Tuesday and a Thursday to do our final votes.
In January, but I'm saying you could do that in December, too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It'd be nice to have to do it on the 15th, not have a meeting on the 22nd.
Do it on the 13th and 15th?
Well, but I think if
We
if
do
the
the
school,
county and the school, though.
if the school gives us their budget, by the end of October, right, thereabouts, I mean, we're gonna have the budget for over a month and a half. We should be in a position to make final votes.
In the past, maybe. There are things that have cropped up,
Like-
and new information, we don't have that information. Oh,
Agreed.
now I just thought of this question.
You also have an extra week there on the 22nd.
Well, so I think we need the 15th. Well, we may not need the 15th, but my point is, we're gonna need, is it okay if we back up and do final votes in December as opposed to waiting till the last minute?
It might be. Do we need to make that decision today?
Well, I want
After
people
we
to work
adopt the
around
bylaws, we
it.
do, because we have to have a calendar that's a year out.
Well,
Unless we vote to override it, Chris.
we have the calendar.
do have that clause.
I mean, isn't it, we're going to do our best to get through these budgets in a quick, efficient, responsible, and timely manner? And if it turns out that things are going well, just by default, we could be able to schedule it earlier, right?
Mhm.
And just because if we're scheduling it late doesn't mean we're going to slack off and milk the process to meet that date. We're still going to work hard to get it done sooner, which means we might be able to push the date forward. I mean, I say we go into it with the intent of everything running so smoothly that, maybe next month or 6 weeks from now, we could say, you know what, we could safely do it. Right now, what do we know?
Okay.
It's-
That's all I wanted to know. I just wanted to sort of give you notice that the 3rd and the 5th now are probably not a good idea. We need to have our budget hearing scheduled for January 9th, which means it has to be put in HLN on December 30th, which means it needs to go to HL. So it backs everything else up, because you have to give notice to the hearing and all that. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understands the 3rd and the 5th now are probably going to be back in December.
Okay,
And
so-
as we get closer, yes, we can determine which of those days.
And that's fine. That just added a little bit more useful pressure on this group to be cautious and courteous with the time and get
Yep.
stuff done. So we all know that, and let's try like heck to do it.
Okay.
So we don't run up against that deadline, and in case there is going to be a real bad winter and everything gets all screwed up.
It's supposed to be bad, but let's hope not. All right, so that's the last thing I had. for calendar, and any other comments or input?
Just one, I think, Andrew, what you're doing, with Tina, trying to get more information out to the public is awesome.
Thank you. We'll
And
see.
long overdue, right? Yeah, I think it's great.
Okay, anything else to come before us? Our next meeting is September 22nd.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Is that the edge?
No, this is the S7. I didn't get the edge.